Everybody get up, it's time to slam now. We got the real jam going down. Welcome to the Space Jam. Here's your chance, do your dance at the Space Jam. Alright.
Blank check with Griffin and David. Blank check with Griffin and David. Don't know what to say or to expect. All you need to know is that the name of the show is Blank Check.
Those little pipsqueaks just turned to supercats. They're the podsters suffering succotash. They're podcasts.
Oh my God.
Wow.
That was embarrassing.
I said it was going to be embarrassing, and I did it, and I committed, and that's all that matters.
That mashup was good.
The mashup was great.
That was great. That was professional. It was enjoyable. No, you did great.
I'll tell you something right off the bat.
Yeah.
I found out recently, and this is gonna weigh heavily on my performance for the entirety of this episode, okay?
Sure.
I found out, I'm not going to name names, friend of mine went in for a big-time Hollywood general meeting at a big-time animation company.
Okay.
And they offhandedly referenced our podcast.
What?
In the meeting. And she texted me and said, like, hey, it's getting around. And I was like, I'm furious. Why am I not being cast in all of those cartoon shows?
So now you're putting your marker down.
I'm saying if you're listening to this podcast and you're an animation world heavyweight, storm into an office and say,
like,
I just heard a man do 3 different Looney Tunes characters perfectly.
Well, those jobs, though, that's like, you have to die to exit one of those gigs, right? Like if you're Daffy, right?
David, the context on this, I'm going to get into it so hard. Also, I did a bad job with all those characters. My name's Griffin Newman.
I'm David Sims.
This is Blank Check with Griffin and David. It is a podcast about filmographies, directors who have massive success early on in their careers, and a series of blank checks to make whatever crazy passion project they want.
Crazy passion project.
And sometimes those checks clear, and sometimes they jam, baby.
Sure.
But this is what we do sometimes in between miniseries. We do a little palate cleanser. We offer up a little sherbet to the audience. Yeah. And a thing we've been doing this in the last year, the family choice episodes.
Uh-huh.
You brought your brother, Joey Sims, in. I brought my sister, Romley Newman, in.
Mm-hmm.
Then we had the siblings unite.
True.
In a Ratatouille episode that was rated one of IndieWire's best podcasts of the year.
That's true.
And that is when my brother came to me irate and said,
see, I'm out of brothers.
Right.
Said, everyone is out of siblings.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're now done.
Where this is the end of
Ben's
the
an only child.
Ben's an only child.
Yeah.
He knows
I'm going to
of.
get my dad on.
Yeah.
I swear, 2019, Robert's going to make an appearance.
Robert's choice.
Well, now that we got him in on the graphic design front, I think he's got some skin in the game. But our guest today comes to me and he goes, first of all, Romley cannot appear on the show a third time before I appear once.
Yes.
Secondly, if I get on the show, you're going to hit single digits on the IndieWire list. And that was the challenge thrown.
Sure. Right. We're going to jump
He will out-chart.
Right.
So today's guest is someone who's been talked about in the show from the very beginning.
True.
Because so much of the show is about the context of when we saw these movies, too. And this is someone who I saw most movies with for the first 10 or 12 years of my life.
Why are you mentioning this?
Why am I mentioning this?
Is it because you guys are
connoisseurs of context? Yes, we're connoisseurs of context.
Right. Sure.
And our guest is a longtime brother of mine, James Newman.
Yeah.
A.K.A. Jamesy. When I tell the stories, I often call you Jamesy because that was of the time period, and you haven't gone by Jamesy in probably 15 years now.
I don't think I ever went by Jamesy.
You were called Jamesy a lot around the house.
You called me Jamesy.
I wasn't the one. I don't want to make it sound like I was the one leading that charge.
Well, what's the age difference between you two?
3 years.
Okay, sure.
I think our parents called you Jamesy a lot. I feel like when our mother filled out forms for you, it would always be James with an I at the end. Like she kind of, I think.
No E, just.
I think she always, from my memory, it was always James I. Which felt that was her kind of Euro touch, maybe. And then there was also the thing of changing your middle name. James's middle name got changed when he was 5 because my mom decided she liked another middle name better.
Don't you have a couple middle names?
I have 27 middle names, and James had
somewhere
one.
Between 2 and 27.
Right. Yeah. James had one, and then 5 years later, she was like, this was my backup name for James, and then made it his new middle name, and then used it as a nickname most of the time.
Which is?
Well, my real middle name is Myron.
Okay.
named after a dead relative of
That sounds
ours.
like
It was like an
an old
honorific.
Jew,
Right.
not
Well,
to be.
I think that's the subtext there. I think my middle name got a little too Jewish.
I think it's fine. Myron's a great
and so it was
name.
changed to Milo, which is a little
Milo.
more, yeah.
Like Milo Minderbinder and
Right.
Milo from the Phantom Toll
Yeah.
Well, I
Booth.
think that was the thing.
My
I
cousin
was
is named
really
Milo.
into the Phantom Toll Booth, and when I was reading it, my mom was always like, I almost named Jamesy that. And then suddenly it became James Milo Newman.
Yeah.
And there was like this rewriting of history.
But you kept your initial, right? It wasn't
right.
so
I
drastic.
think that's why she was able to do the sort of like Indiana Jones, idol swap.
Yeah.
for
Well,
the
I grew up
sandbag.
thinking maybe that Milo was somehow short for Myron.
Right.
Fair.
I didn't
Fair.
know, right? I didn't
Milo
know.
is technically short for Michael, but like not really.
Our mother likes
don't know.
rewriting history and pretending like that never happened. So that was one of her moves where I think she kept the story kind of vague so that you could think like, oh, maybe Milo is just a new version of my middle name as opposed to a new name entirely. But when we were growing up, our father worked a lot. And so like weekends were very much time with the boys, right? I feel like the week.
You mean with your dad?
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
Right. It was like,
He was
okay.
busy in the
Yeah, I
weekdays.
think our perception was that he was working a lot. I don't know if that,
My memory is he would work all day. He would come home and he'd be really stressed out. He would take us to
Sure.
school. We'd like get morning time with him. And then when he came home, he'd be so stressed out. And then he would like have a mug of wine with ice cubes in it.
Yeah.
And then very
mug
quickly
of
retire
wine
to the
with
couch
ice
to
cubes
watch
in
political TV.
Interesting. Like the news?
Yes.
Right.
But the weekends were like, that was the time where it's like, you take them out, right?
yeah, we did a lot of stuff together. The three of us did a lot.
Right. And I was the big movie kid.
Yeah.
And you were really into sports.
Yeah.
Our dad worked in the entertainment industry and kind of resented it. And he loved sports, which was what he wanted to be working in. So he
Okay.
had like a foot in each. And I feel like our weekends were always sort of this oscillation between like, okay, here's a sports thing that Griff's less into. Here's a movie thing that James is less into. You liked
sample-
movies more than I like sports,
Yes.
but
A sample weekend might be we go to the All-Star Sports Cafe in
Uh-huh.
Times Square, and then we go see a movie.
right.
And we get a little, and
Sure.
it's not like, and Griffin could eat the chicken fingers,
Right,
that's
there
fine,
were-
and I could see
there
the
was
movie, that's fine.
Usually
There's a
trying
little-
to get a balance of things. We both played like Little League and like weekend stuff. You did soccer for a lot longer, but it was like, oh, if we're both playing Little League baseball, then maybe we get to go to the comic book store afterwards.
Yes,
It felt like it was always like sort of like a piece of cord that had to be weighed on the weekends to
Right.
keep us balanced. But this movie became like a huge. I
Ben's laughing.
feel like this movie is a big formative thing in our relationship because this was one of the first times I remember something feeling totally equal in and of itself.
That's the idea here.
Yeah.
Of picking the film we're discussing.
Well, this was like your favorite movie for a number of years.
Yeah. I think, well, just the whole thing, the movie, the soundtrack.
Right.
The soundtrack's huge.
I mean, that's,
This is like the most effective piece of branding in the history of studio filmmaking. And famously, this movie made $1 billion in merchandising,
That's crazy.
which is crazy for one film and not a franchise.
Right.
But it was just like Warner Brothers was at this point.
But
where,
it's two franchises.
well, that was the
Right,
thing.
Right.
I was saying Warner Brothers was following the Disney example and trying to like hyper monetize the Looney Tunes in the way that Disney had with everything. And this was like peak WB store, which was a place we
Right.
would also go a
Right.
lot if we were trying to counteract
Yeah,
the
sure.
weekend, right? So that like the Looney Tunes, this is when they start to be on like T-shirts and you have like hip hop bugs and all this shit.
That was big when I was a
Right.
kid too. Right. You get this sort of like long
I
T-shirt.
wanted the jackets. Remember the
The denim
like,
jackets.
Oh,
Yeah.
like with like I wanted a Marvin the Martian denim jacket
Obviously.
so bad.
You're
The
wearing like
coolest Marvin is Marvin the Martian. The coolest.
we had the
Looney
mug,
Tune.
I remember.
yes, we had a Marvin mug. That was a big thing. Was like I would get like boring dad stuff for my dad for his birthday with Looney Tunes on it. So I'd be like, "Here's a stapler," and it's Sylvester. Or I think that was a letter opener. He had the Marvin mug. There were like all those kinds of things. Ben, I should mention, is wearing like a denim jacket that is only missing the Looney Tunes WB store embroidery, but otherwise looks of
I
the
haven't
era.
even seen him turn around, so I don't.
no, it's
No,
not
it's
there.
not.
It's a vintage
Nothing.
Lee
Granny isn't on the
distressed
back?
Denim
You could
jacket.
sew something on.
Yeah,
though.
Barnyard Dog. You could go deep cut.
Interesting.
Yeah.
No, I'm purist.
Muggsy.
I'm purist. Marvin, baby. Or Taz. I love Taz.
Well,
too.
obviously,
Taz
he was.
is cool.
Taz
Taz
was
is
your
my
favorite
guy.
too.
Yeah.
He's good for. I feel like
Yeah,
kids
well, there's-
love him. He makes a mess.
You were also.
He's aggressive, but not mean.
I was going
Right.
to say,
I mean,
you were
that's sort of-
somewhat Taz-like as a child. You were
Right.
very, like, you had a lot of energy and you were very physical.
True.
And you always were sort of like, the joke I make is that when you were like a child, if there was like something boring going on, you would start playing sports against an imaginary opponent. Like you would like practice moves,
or a babysitter or something.
Right. I mean, if there was someone to play against, you would play against, and you had like
Did
a basketball
you play,
hoop in your
NBA Jam?
bedroom.
Did you have the game?
Yes, I did. Yes.
Or any other NBA. I mean, I played a lot of NBA Jam. That's just why I'm
NBA Jam, NBA Live.
You definitely
That was another thing.
Live,
I mean,
right?
you remember Michael Jordan was not in NBA Live too.
He's out nor in NBA Jam.
Right.
No, he would not license his
he held
image.
out?
Yes.
Well, we had the Space Jam computer game that was mostly like an NBA Jam clone, but then in the halftimes or in between quarters, there were mini games where you played as Wayne Knight. And you would play that, and then I'd wait for the Wayne Knight, and I'd go, okay, hand me the keyboard. And then it would be like Wayne Knight trying to find Michael's secret stuff or whatever.
That's really cute.
Yeah. But that
was available on DOS.
Right. It was a DOS game, and it was like pretty much just a straight NBA Jam type thing.
Well, that's a big part of the...
Except with cartoon characters.
Yeah.
Right. That's a big part of the merchandising, I think, too, is Michael Jordan was so available.
The most merchandised athlete of the 90s.
Right. And the Looney Tunes were so merchandised that it was like, we're going to put them together, and this is just money. This just paints money. It prints it.
The surprise here, though, is probably the soundtrack.
Right.
This was like the Garden State of sports movies.
Yeah,
I mean, this soundtrack, I mean, we can look up the charts, but I would imagine...
Up the numbers?
I'm pulling it up.
I feel like this is probably one of the 10 best-selling albums of the 90s.
Absolutely.
Truly, right?
No, don't be crazy.
It
went 6 times platinum, which is pretty good.
Yeah.
But nowhere near. I mean, there are a lot of diamond albums out.
Go fuck yourself.
Yeah, it's the top 10. Yeah, Space
chart
Jam was
explain me,
huge.
David. Yes.
Huge.
Album was huge.
It was huge. But I feel like for you guys, it was like seismic. It was like the definitive. I understand. I get it.
Right. Because we were talking last night, David, you and I, in preparation for this episode.
We were seeing Bad Times at the El Royale.
Which we both agree, pretty good time at the El Royale.
Yeah.
Like a decent, fun time
at
the El Royale. A little long, but like an enjoyable enough time at the El Royale. And you were like, it's weird that James likes Space Jam that much because he must have hated Jordan.
I asked if James, and I can ask James directly now, was a Knicks fan because I was talking about how much I hated Michael Jordan when I was a kid because I was a diehard Knicks fan and he was the monster. I hated him. We would run into him every year in the playoffs and he would destroy us.
He was like the bulldozer. He was the Nancy Myers of his time.
I was a Knicks fan.
Sure.
Still am.
Sure.
But I was 4 years old when this movie came out.
I understand.
I think when you're that age and you're a sports fan, it's just you're not hating yet.
No, I totally understand. Right.
Yeah.
I had because I was 10 when this movie came out, and I had like I probably started watching the Knicks in like the early 90s, like 3 or 4 solid years of like Jordan just annihilating us. Like, you know, and I always had, obviously, like, I knew he was good. I wasn't out there saying, like, Michael Jordan is overrated.
If you look at the numbers.
Right.
Yeah.
I just couldn't stand him. And so I would instead, what I was saying was when LeBron came around in the next decade, I was like, I'm not missing out on this guy. You
want to enjoy it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I can't spend this is my, the NBA is my sport. I can't spend another generation hating its best player. Like,
yes. I mean, you were young at the time, and Jordan was like Superman, where it was just exciting to see a guy be that dominant.
I mean, he was...
Jordan, to my mind, is only comparable to Ali in American sports.
Agree with that.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of like anyone who could possibly...
Because when people compare LeBron, my argument is I don't care about sports, and I cared about Michael Jordan at the time because it felt like a seismic cultural event when he was at the top of his game. And LeBron is like, everyone knows that guy's cool and he's good at basketball. You know?
I mean, it's hard to compare to because, you know, to that point, like when I was 4, you know, I'm a big sports fan, but I wasn't like looking like, oh, well, like Jordan actually like shooting the 3, not that good. You know, he was a superhero, right? And so it's
yes.
like the perspective on LeBron is so much different.
The Air thing was one of the best pieces of branding of all time because it literally made him seem otherworldly. Right. It was like this like meta-human thing,
and that's what this movie
is playing off of. But the other thing is the fact that he was the first guy to license himself like crazy, be the spokesman for 1,000 things. It was like, even if you didn't watch sports or like me and you sat in the background and asked when the game was going to be over, he was so omnipresent and there weren't other athletes doing that as much.
There was no cynicism.
Right. When I turn on TV now, I see a bunch of spokespeople who I don't know, and someone in the room is like, oh, that guy's like the 5th most successful like defensive player in the NBA. And I'm like, I don't know who he is.
Don't you know?
Right. And he's like the spokesman for Coca-Cola.
Oh, sure. Well, the endorsement thing. Well, right. Well, the NBA is more important now as well. Like, Jordan helped bring that along, right? Where it's
he
now
made it right, kind of seismic. But the other thing is, you have traditionally always been, I don't want to say contrarian, but you never love the dominant player, the dominant team. The thing I say, like, define your personality when you were younger is like when you were in middle school, going to school in New York City, you were like a kid who'd wear Red Sox shirts and hats all the time.
I learned to hate the Yankees
Right.
because
Sure.
everybody loved the Yankees.
Right.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
Exactly.
And every, if you consider yourself like a real sports fan, like it's easy at that age to be like, oh, that thing that everyone thinks is good.
Right.
I got news for you.
But you always liked underdogs. You liked sort of
Yeah.
off the beaten path. Your favorite team in any franchise in the history of sports is the Tennessee Volunteers.
Right.
Like you've never been the superstar guy. But Jordan at this age, like you used to stick your tongue out all the time because you want to be like Michael Jordan.
Still do.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like a learned habit. It's
Right.
like Ryan Gosling's like Brooklyn accent.
Yeah, it
Like
is.
it's like a thing you tried to affect that now you can't drop.
I can't. I was, taking notes for this.
When you concentrate, you stick your tongue out.
Right.
Yeah. And that was like, it was that he was the guy,
He's the guy.
And for me, our mother was very overprotective in terms of what we could watch.
Sure.
And she thought all current day cartoon shows in the early 90s were too violent and cynical.
I mean, yeah.
So most
kind of
of
were.
what she let me watch were Looney Tunes cartoons, which are the most violent and cynical things ever made.
They are. They're also, they're
They're like shooting someone in the face and going like,
violent.
he deserved that.
Yeah.
But I watched them all the time because that was all Cartoon Network had. So like Bugs Bunny was kind of my Michael Jordan. And I was like a weird kid who would mimic all of Bugs Bunny's behaviors. Like I might have told this story in an episode, but
You sound so weird. Was he weird?
Yeah, are you kidding me?
Yeah, he was a weird kid.
They're one of the racist Bugs Bunny shorts that they don't show
God.
anymore,
Uh-huh.
where a bunch of really uncomfortable African tribesmen characters try to cook him alive.
Sure.
There's a bit where they lure him into the big
Cauldron.
because they're like, oh, it's a bath.
Sure.
And he does this whole routine of like
Was
slowly.
this your bath routine?
I would only get into the bath replicating Bugs Bunny.
I would have
That's
thrown
terrible.
you
Awful.
out the window, been like, look, we got another kid. Like, hopefully this one will work out better.
My point here is just, even if that was more
I'm
abnormal,
kidding, I
we
would
were
have not-
both
I'm not one of
replicating the behaviors
I
of
got
our idols who were Bugs Bunny and Michael Jordan.
Right. Except yours was you couldn't take a bath without being Bugs Bunny and a racist.
Right.
Yes, correct.
Mine was a successful African American male,
look,
and
we're not
yours.
judging here. I've written some bad essays, okay? I speak to you from the present.
So this film came out in 96.
Yes.
You're saying you were 4?
Griff, what month did this movie come
Just
out?
This came out in November. Yeah, you were 4.
So I was getting
going on
close to
5.
Yeah.
I was 7 going on 8.
Okay.
Toy Story had come out a year before, and
Right.
that had been my
That was your movie. You were like,
And-
I like the cinema now.
Right. I mean, I was always a movie kid, but it was just like, oh, I own this now. And I feel like there was the run up to the movie. I remember we still shared a bedroom at this point in time, and you had the Space Jam poster on the wall months before the movie came out.
I knew.
It was in like a Sports Illustrated for kids or
Right,
whatever.
right.
And you put it up and you just would like point to it and go like, that's going to be mine.
Let's go.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
We're ready. You were
Space
saying you
Jam.
didn't remember seeing it in theaters, but we 100% did.
Well, I didn't. Yeah, I think my
pretty young.
my memory is just watching the VHS, but I'm sure we did.
Where
see
did you see it?
I want to say we saw it at the Lincoln Square, maybe. I can't remember
yeah.
vividly. I think it was maybe the Lincoln Square. But it was like a big deal. And then it was like a 6-month frenzy of just buying anything Space Jam related.
Wow.
They had us.
They had us on
They
the
really-
hook
they got
between
their
the two
claws
of
in
us.
you.
And the action figures for this movie
Between
were...
basketball and racism.
Right. I love racism.
We were in.
Because this is a movie about slavery. Let's
Yeah.
admit, this is a movie
is.
about
I'm blinking.
a battle
you mean-
against slavery.
Sure, right. Well, indentured
They
yeah.
literally say slaves.
servitude. Well, they can say whatever they want in this movie.
Or let me correct myself. Elmer Fudd says slavery.
Oh, boy.
He does. Oh, they're going to sell us into slavery.
I guess so. It's very. We'll talk about the concept.
I was just going
going
to say, the action figures of this film, it was like you'd get a basketball player and a Looney Tune. And so it was literally like we'd get the parents to buy it for us and we'd like split the packaging, you know? There was like something of like this movie was like a breaking of the bread for two kids who usually like different things.
Yeah, I saw this film at the Barbican Cinema,
Uh-huh.
which was a theater in London.
Okay, so you're on holiday?
No, you're not doing the bit again.
I'm
You've
not doing the
retired
bit.
it.
You're correct. We're not doing the bit because we have retired it. It's up in the
Right.
rafters along with Jordan's jersey. So I just want to say you were on holiday, and I hope you agree with that.
You're just doing the bit again.
I'm not doing the bit.
You are.
The bit's retired.
The bit was that you would say I was on vacation if I brought up England. That was a core part of the bit. You're just doing it again.
Which is why I'm saying holiday. It's different. It's not part of the retired bit.
Ben.
All right, I'm gonna have to give you a yellow card.
To whom?
Thank you.
You.
Me?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's enough already.
I think we'll find a new angle on it, but yeah, holiday's not gonna fly.
Enough.
Jesus Christ. Okay. David, you seem like something's troubling you. Would you mind speaking on that?
Oh, I've just been thinking about Talkspace.
Mm-hmm.
It's this online therapy company. It lets you message a licensed therapist from anywhere at any time. It's just really been weighing on me that how all you need is a computer with an internet connection or the Talkspace mobile app to improve your mental health, even if you've had trouble making time for it in the past.
Interesting. Can you expand on that?
Well, so if you can't imagine like fitting therapy into your life, like, you know, obviously rather than having to go to an office to make appointments, cut out time in your schedule for it with Talkspace, you just have to send your therapist a message. You can get something off your chest whenever you need to. You can talk about everyday challenges at work, talk about life. There's no extra commutes, no leaving the offices, no judgments. And it's just about venting your innermost thoughts or whatever you want to talk about.
And what does Joanna think of this?
Well, I mean, we've talked about it.
Humble brag.
She thinks there are practical everyday strategies for stress management and living a happier life that like having a therapist can help you with. And Talkspace just like connects you to someone to talk to right away rather than, you know, having to carve out a specific hour in the week to go and see them at an office.
And do you feel like when you're talking to Talkspace professionals, you wish that you had a promo code?
Well, the Talkspace platform has more than 2,000 licensed therapists who are experienced in addressing life challenges that we all face. So to match with a perfect therapist for a fraction of the price of a traditional therapy, you just go to Talkspace.com/check and you use the code CHECK to get $45 off your first month and show your support for the show. That's CHECK, promo code CHECK, Talkspace.com/check.
And do you think this has anything to do with a sense of sexual inadequacy?
Oh, well, certainly. I mean, that's topic number one.
Cool. That's our time.
I saw it. The Barbican would do like children's screenings every Saturday, and I would go every Saturday no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
Like sometimes they'd have a new movie. I guess if there was no new movie, they'd just show like The Railway Children. They'd show some like classic movie. And I saw this movie, and I thought it was good. And that was kind of that for me.
Yeah.
I probably didn't see it again for like 10 years.
I saw this movie on VHS for the first time on a porch.
I thought he was about to say yesterday.
And
On a porch.
It was a porch, so it wasn't really heated. So I remember it being kind of a cool autumn afternoon.
A cold fall porch.
What? But like,
Where was the TV?
I was about to say like the porch.
Where was the porch?
You didn't like put the VHS in the porch, right?
Was this a Videodrome house?
There's a TV on the porch too, of course.
Of your home?
No, this is at my friend Tim's house.
Tim sounds cool.
Timmy.
Oh, we got into some real trouble.
Obviously.
We had slingshots. You know,
I'm always like, you know, when I had a friend, we'd like play Super Nintendo, and when Ben had a friend, they'd like rob grocery stores or whatever.
we were
they
the
did.
kind of kids we put a stick into your spokes so you flew off your bike.
Timothy Vey, American terrorist? Who are we talking about?
No, I don't want to say his last
Okay,
name.
fine.
We're not on good terms anymore.
Ooh, interesting.
Wow, what happened? When did you and Tim break apart? What age?
We got into a big fight.
Okay. Like
Yeah.
last year or right after the porch?
It was in high school.
Okay.
Were you like, dude, like it's fucked up that you watch movies on a porch?
It was
Like
about-
you can go inside.
It was about a
Indoor
girl.
heating.
It was about a girl.
the Ben Hosley story.
It was about Lola Bunny. Clearly, the story you're setting is this happened right after watching the movie.
You know, Lola Bunny is a girl. There's some subtle references that you can sort of figure it out.
I've seen the movie 10 times now, and I think I've finally figured it out. But otherwise,
that she's a girl.
Well, there's so much to her character outside of her gender that sometimes you forget. Even you start not seeing gender.
Is this the first gender fluid?
This is the first
cartoon
gender fluid
character?
cartoon character. Yeah,
How many like female Looney Tunes are there?
very few.
I'm like of the classic
Yeah,
Looney Tunes.
because Tweety is male. Everyone always thinks that Tweety's female.
Right, because Tweety has a high voice.
Not. In terms of prominent characters, I mean, this is why Lola was created. There's like Granny, who owns Sylvester and Tweety.
I know, and that's when Granny's in this, you're like, did they literally just like sort of think like, we kind of need some more like women?
There's Witch Hazel, who's a sometimes antagonist to Bugs Bunny. I mean, there are no core characters who are female. There were other, like Petunia Pig, they would sometimes introduce as Porky's girlfriend, who was just mostly as a marketing thing, so they could have characters to put on female merchandise.
Daffy had a female.
No, you're thinking of Daisy Duck, I feel like, in the Disney world.
Yes.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
Because the Disney would always have the Minnie Mouse Daisy Duck, right? Like the sort of the female counterpart.
Right, and Petunia was kind of the Daisy of the world. But Lola was introduced for this because when you'd go to the Warner Brothers store, it'd be a lot of pink Tweety shit because they were like, that's the closest thing we have to a female. So Lola, they were like, we need a girl character.
I'm shaking my head.
Here's the pitch. She's a girl. What's the rest of the pitch? Dads want to fuck her? Because she's the most sexualized.
She is.
Her whole bit is that everyone like drops their jaw.
I know.
She's like Jessica Rabbit.
Right.
But that movie, like, the joke is that she's very sexy.
Right, and also that movie is a little more grown-up than this movie. I mean, no offense to Space Jam, but it's not the most grown-up movie in the world.
Not the most. No, I'd say Closer is probably the most.
Closer?
My Dinner with Andre.
All right, Space Jam. So we all saw it.
Yes.
In theaters, except for Ben, who saw it on a porch.
On a porch with a man he would later...
Porch Jam.
falling out with
over a girl.
Porch.
Possibly Lola Bunny, not confirmed.
Unconfirmed.
Yeah.
So this movie starts with what was, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, your favorite scene. I remember you rewinding the opening scene over and over and over again.
With his dad?
It's an important scene.
It is an important scene.
Well, it is. His motto was "Be like Mike," and the film starts with basically the message. You know, if you go out back, take a couple shots, right?
It was an early version of The Secret. You know, if you call what you're going to do in the future and then you hit right,
tell your
you
dad,
get buckets,
put up some shots, and
the dad played by Paul Walker's supervisor in the first two Fast and Furious movies.
Tom Barry. He's like he's that guy.
Yeah.
He's in like a zillion things.
It was good to see him too. He's very young and fit in this movie.
Yes.
He's interesting. Go on, sorry.
No, he's pretty virile, and
he's got a great scene in like an early West Wing. He'll pop up in like a TV show and just kind of like kill a scene. Like,
I just say I watched Too Fast recently, and I was like, why isn't this guy in all the Fast and Furious movies? Like he's so good as the like, here's the mission, you know?
Right.
But this film, which important context. This movie is like trying to offer a narrative around the death of Michael Jordan's father, Michael Jordan's retirement from basketball into minor league baseball, and his return to the NBA. Yes. Like, this movie's like, we're going to come up with a clear alibi that everyone can agree on.
Right.
And this
it's a narrative. It's a narrative.
Print the legend.
Is
and
how
now
I would describe it.
This is what you'll tell your children.
Michael Jordan, who, as we know, is he's from North Carolina.
Wilmington.
He went to school. He went to the University of North Carolina.
The famous legend that he didn't make his high school basketball team.
I believe he was born in Brooklyn, but yeah, right. Because in his Hall of Fame speech, he was like, fuck that guy.
Yeah,
he like read a laundry list of like everyone who ever wronged him.
But isn't it just that he didn't make varsity as like a freshman?
Yes,
Maybe it was a sophomore. But
yes.
So, I mean, he was just forced to play with the other kids his
he
age.
He was too short as a sophomore. And then he became the star of the junior team. But
he was on a team.
But his narrative, I think, was like that rejection probably like fueled his mania. I mean, when we were kids, he was just seen as like he was the best. He was a killer. He was an assassin.
This is the whole thing here, too, because part of that alibi they try to provide for Michael Jordan is not just that he, was playing some baseball. It was basically he became suburban.
Right.
I mean, they're pulling the minivan up to this nice little colonial house.
Yes.
Right.
And the kids are running out, and none of the kids even know who Michael Jordan is. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, the kids are running out like, oh, it's like, it's Jeffrey's dad.
It's that kid, that guy, right.
Yeah.
Right. And the other element to that,
He's
too,
got the
is...
slacks, the flat front slacks that are
not
high
the dog
on the
again.
waist.
The dog's running out.
But it's a real statement of intent to open with the scene with the dad, because it's like, you're sitting there, and as children, we weren't thinking this, but if you watch this movie as an adult, you're like, this is crazy that they're bringing his dad into this film.
No, it's crazy
recently
because his
murdered
dad
father
had recently died. He was, I want to get that, James Jordan. He was killed in 1993, so a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
He was shot to death
Mm-hmm.
by carjackers, like I believe was the official like diagnosis of what had happened. And then right after that, pretty much Michael Jordan retires from basketball
Right. Now,
after winning 3 championships in a row.
the circumstances of his death were always kind of weird.
Sure.
And what has come to light later is Michael Jordan had serious gambling problems for a number of years.
All right, and we're going to leave it right
No.
there.
The other thing is that perhaps he was encouraged to step away
There's
from the
this
NBA.
like long-running NBA conspiracy theory, that people like Bill Simmons will talk about, right?
Yes.
That David Stern, the commissioner, told him like all this gambling shit, it's going to come to light. Like you are essentially banned from the NBA for a couple of years.
You
like,
need to clean up so that it
cool
doesn't
your
become a
jets.
Pete Rose for us because we
Right.
can't have our brightest star tarnished.
And so he goes off to play baseball,
Yes.
but the owner of the Bulls never canceled his contract.
Mhm.
Like he was still a Bull, sort of.
Plays minor league, so he's still kind of
Well, he played minor league because he was bad.
right.
Well, but okay, but
All right, come on,
but
let's
this,
talk about it.
but this is sort of because one thing that's immediately clear about the movie is they're going to shit on Michael Jordan's baseball.
They are. They're right.
I mean, they are. Everyone
the
is
gloves are off.
laughing.
Right.
I mean, the catcher is telling
Yeah.
him what pitches are coming.
I mean, they make
and
it-
Michael's like, ugh,
And-
couldn't get catch up to that one.
One of the things
you
you
know?
would die laughing at as a kid was the bit where he gets back into the dugout and all the guys are telling him how good his strikeout was. And
Right.
they go like,
Yes.
when you fail, you make failing look good. I wish I could fail like you, Michael.
And now ESPN produced a documentary about Michael Jordan playing baseball, in which it is posited that Michael Jordan actually displayed a fair bit of promise as a baseball
I mean,
player.
he was you're absolutely right. He played Double-A baseball and like hit home runs
And
and
had
hit
not
the
played
ball.
baseball in
It's true. It's
15
not like
years.
he was
And
horrible.
and was not even, I mean, I don't know. I mean, my impression is that he was not even like some hotshot baseball prospect out of high school. I don't,
No,
he
I
did
don't think
not
so.
I mean, because a lot of
The
other
narrative was his dad had always wanted him to play
a
baseball.
lot of athletes
Right.
will get drafted to play baseball out of high school and go pro in another sport, and maybe
Yeah.
Yeah.
they'll sort of flirt with baseball later in life or something like that. That was not the case here. I mean, he was basically saying this extraordinary athleticism that I have in this drive.
Right.
Could that translate to
So
baseball?
what
Let me
was
give it a
it-
shot.
When did Bo Jackson? Was he before or
He's
after
right
this
around
time?
then.
He's right
Bo
around
He
this
was
Jackson-
time?
before. He was before.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
but it was
did
he was
Deion
old.
Sanders
Sanders as well.
Neon
was
Deion?
Yeah,
just
But
before.
I mean, everyone's always said LeBron would have been a good running back or whatever. Like, he's probably got the body for football
for something.
For
Running
something.
back is
Yeah.
a little,
Maybe not running
Yeah.
back, but it wasn't Jordan. Wasn't the hit on him also that the strike zone was tough with him because he was so tall?
Right.
Like,
Well,
yeah.
that perspective is
Yeah.
sort of crazy because Michael Jordan on a basketball court doesn't seem that.
No,
tall.
he's
It's part
what,
of his
6'6"?
appeal.
Six?
Part of his appeal.
Maybe.
6'6".
Yeah, he's a shooting guard.
Right.
But you're right. I don't want to shit on him too much.
I mean, pull up the numbers. He had,
I've got the numbers
200 in Double-A. He hadn't played baseball in
200 in
12
Double
or
A
13
with
years.
3 homers and 51 RBIs.
I'd like to see
You
the
know.
splits too, because the narrative is that he started hitting a lot better towards the end of his time.
Interesting. So yeah, maybe he would have figured it out, but he was also like 31,
He was
32.
31. He was
So
31.
he
Well,
didn't have
this is what
a
Tim
lot of
Tebow
time.
is trying to do now.
I know, but
Ben
he's
is laughing
good-
hysterically because I'm sitting here silently
Good
biting my
luck,
tongue.
Griffin.
He was like nodding. He's like RBI.
I just
Yeah,
think
yeah,
it's
yeah.
I wonder
Check the walks. Never got on base.
like I just wonder how that conversation went when they were developing this movie, where they were like, "Are we allowed to just kind of make fun of the baseball thing or not?"
And he obviously said, "Have at it."
right,
Can
he
I-
was like,
can I
"You
offer
can
my
do-"
theories?
Yes.
Okay, so we all agree without drawing larger conclusions that he was at a time where his image was in danger, right?
No.
Oh no.
No,
not at all.
I'm saying in terms of the stuff that didn't become public, that there was scenes to his personal life that could have
Okay,
jeopardized.
so
Not really.
in a sense, he
I'm
could
saying
have
in retrospect, 20 years later,
he could have ceased to become
No.
the exact Michael Jordan that we all know, but his career would have been fine.
I want to
They
clarify.
asked him to step away from the
in
court.
No, but in 1995, Michael Jordan releases the greatest press release in the history of press releases.
Uh-huh.
2 words: "I'm back."
Yeah.
And literally, the whole world melts down with happiness. All they wanted was for him to be back. And like when he came back, it was so huge. Everyone was still worshiping at the feet of Michael Jordan.
Can you let me offer my hypothesis, which
Sure.
doesn't negate what you just said?
I mean, it was, yes, go on.
Okay, gambling stuff swirling
Yeah,
around
yeah.
him, right? They go, hey, maybe step away for a little bit.
Uh-huh.
So much of his image is based in him as a spokesperson that he can't totally disappear off the grid for a little time. So
Well,
it's like,
no.
right, so it's like, let me move to a different sport. Let
Right.
me stay in the news cycle, be discussed in this kind of way, try to get my life back together a little more, clean it up so I come back to basketball. And when I come back to basketball, people are going to be twice as excited as when I was previously playing.
It's possible that, you know.
Also, I would like to just put, I'm not saying this is accurate, but to put out the narrative, the most generous narrative possible to Michael Jordan. This is someone who, you know, did not have, I mean, was successful as a player, but did not have a lot of postseason success early on in his career. They could never beat the Pistons, right?
The bad boy
He is,
Pistons.
as we know, is a fanatic.
Yes,
I
I know.
He
Of course I know
doesn't
this.
sleep.
Yes.
Who was
Right.
on
You know,
the Pistons at that time?
Isaiah Thomas,
Isaiah
RJ
Thomas,
Mars, yeah.
RJ Mars, yeah.
RJ Mars.
They were the bad boys.
It was the bad boys. I'd say
Rodman.
Rodman was definitely on them.
Was Grant?
Grant, yes.
You mean Horace Grant? No, he was a
no,
bull.
no, not Horace Grant.
And no Grant
No.
Hill. That was Grant
No,
Hill was
Grant
on
Hill.
the
Grant
list
Hill. Later.
Yeah.
Yes,
He's
no,
later.
Ben,
Okay.
that
He
was
wasn't a
later.
bad
You're
boy.
mistaken here. That was later.
Yeah, Ben, shut the fuck
Then he
up.
finally, you're right. In '91, he breaks through the Pistons. Finally, he
Yeah.
he gets to the mountaintop.
Yes.
He wins
Yeah.
the title.
We all know this, David. Why are you going?
3
I know
years
all
in a
these
row, he
things
wins
like
the
the back
title.
of
And
my
he's like,
hand.
I can just keep winning titles, and then his dad dies.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you know what? Maybe he knows all. This is just, you know, one possible explanation. Maybe he knows all along. He's like, if I keep going now, I'm not going to be able to hit my level. Because at that point, you're just competing with yourself.
He did
Competing
at
with
the
yourself.
time say his dad's murder was part of it, and then later I have a little bit of gambling info I can give you. But go on,
You're
Jake.
competing with yourself and you're competing with history.
Yes.
Yeah. He says, I got to be a 10 all the time.
There's a canny bit of brand management here in terms of making sure he retains his value.
Yeah,
especially
the only
as a
thing I would say to
spokesperson, a
you
public figure.
is it maybe took Kobe Bryant about 6 months after he possibly raped a woman to be back in ads and
Yes.
be the top player. And he was not Michael Jordan as much as he
Close enough.
But that's-
he
not-
emulated
wanted to
Michael
be,
Jordan, but
right.
he was not Michael Jordan.
That's
So,
why I'm
you know,
saying
yes.
I think the big thing was they didn't even want things getting out.
I think he saved a haircut. No pun intended.
Exactly.
I don't think he saved any sort of
I don't think the whole
damage
castle
to
could
his
have
career.
crumbled.
I mean, he was famous for. There's so many stories, and there's about to be this ESPN sort of O.J. Simpson, like in the style of the O.J. Simpson thing, like 10-hour documentary about Jordan that I imagine is gonna. Apparently has full access to him, and we'll maybe delve a little more into this stuff. Which
the Hitler
will be
mustache.
fascinating.
1 hour is just on the Hitler mustache and the
I
Haynes
have some
commercial.
questions.
Yeah.
But that, like, you know, NBA players play cards all the time, especially on the planes. They like to play cards, and if you played cards with him, he would just be like merciless. Like there was just no friendliness. He just wanted to annihilate everyone.
Well, and for you know, in the context of this film, he's also famous for having ruined Muggsy Bogues' jump shot, but
Right.
one's calling him a midget as he was about to shoot, and Muggsy didn't want to shoot anymore.
That's like basketball shit.
Muggsy
That's
was-
literally the
he
bid in
was not
basketball.
nice.
Muggsy
He
said,
was
"I'm
mean.
done. I'm
Right.
done shooting. That scared me so much. I'm not even gonna get in that position."
But
anymore.
that's why it was kind of amazing that at the time the reputation was like, Michael Jordan, I'd buy underwear from him. What a
Right.
sweetheart.
Incredible.
This
and he
movie
the
is
last,
part of that.
Yes,
He was
and
really
is the,
shiny.
And there's an
Yeah.
important point to be made. He's probably the last athlete where there would not be a simultaneous counter narrative
He was-
about,
right.
well, I heard from someone who, that was not out.
That's the only reason I offer my hypothesis, because I think there's no way he could have lost everything, but he was so at the top in terms of, as you said, competing with himself. If he steps away, he makes sure that the excitement only grows when he comes back rather than just having a couple seasons where he is plateauing.
Yes,
plateauing at the
worked.
top.
It worked for
People
him.
liked him growing. And the other
It was
thing,
so good for his to take that step away and then come back. Everyone was just like, "Oh my god, he's back! Thank God!" Like, you know.
right, he had started getting spotted at casinos, which is when like they were like,
Well, he
There's
was
stories-
famously spotted at a casino
Right
the night
before a game.
before,
Right.
like an important game.
Yes.
Not even. I think it was like a playoff game.
And there are stories now that people tell where they're like, I once won $1.5 million from him on the golf course.
Sure.
Like he would like make bets per
Yes.
hole.
But he's very wealthy.
He's one of the wealthiest people alive.
He's quite wealthy.
The other thing I was going to say though is I think part of the pitch of this movie is, okay, so now he's back. Michael's bigger than ever. We want to make a movie to explain that whole time period, sell it as part of this family man.
Right.
Why did he leave the NBA? Because he loved his dad so much and he made a promise.
And he wanted to buy a minivan.
And he was back home and he was with the kids and all of that. It was all about the family, right?
It was all about the family.
But the other part is the first 30 minutes of this movie are really focused on the baseball and the family
Yes,
stuff.
they're Jordan. It's all Jordan.
And I forgot how much it is just sort of like of the era studio sports comedy before the Looney Tunes come in, where
Okay.
it's like, let's make Major League with him failing, but he's an underdog and it's kind of sweet and uplifting.
Right.
So that because he looked like a shitty baseball player because he was the most dominant NBA player of all time.
Yeah.
And when he showed up in baseball and he was pretty good, it looked
He
disappointing.
wasn't good. He was We already discussed
It was impressive. He wasn't good.
He could play baseball.
Yeah.
My point
At a minor league
is,
level.
though, if they make the movie part
Just
of this,
about.
like, oh, it's like nice and sweet that he tried to play baseball and he tried really hard, it sells it as he never had a dip. He was always the best. Even when he wasn't dominating a league, he was the best guy.
Well, and can I say something? I think if you shut this movie off 30 minutes in, you say, what movie is he going to make next? I think he's really good in the
Agreed.
first 30 minutes.
I think he's good. You're pointing at me like I don't
Very
agree
good.
with you. I agree.
He
I
is
agree.
good.
Yeah.
I think he's good in this movie. Some people, like when LeBron just announced that he's making Space Jam 2, I saw some snarky tweets along the lines of like, well, he's definitely a better actor than Michael Jordan. Now, I think I agree with that
Yeah.
because LeBron was very good in Trainwreck. Like he definitely,
He's legitimately a good actor.
he's obviously got talent. But like, I do feel like Michael Jordan's reputation in this movie is that he is stiff or bad or whatever. You know, like
Well,
he's kind of a
I think
stiff
I think
actor.
it flips a bit. When he's acting with people.
It's an impossible.
It
task.
is. It's impossible.
Especially in '96. Like,
Yes.
what was it? Like, we'll
Yes,
talk
there
about it.
were
right.
established actors who have belly flopped as hard doing these types of like movies like this. Like you watch the first Garfield movie and no one knows how to touch Garfield. You know, like shit like that, and that's all professional actors. I think when he doesn't have anyone to play off of, but he had done so many commercials at this time, and Joe Pytka, who ostensibly directed this movie, was his main commercial guy.
Yeah.
Like he's in a zone he understands, he knows his brand,
And
he's
he was,
comfortable in
and
front
he
of
was
camera.
understated too in the first 30 minutes. He was
Oh, yeah.
funny but understated. And the other thing is, he looked amazing.
He
he
so
looks
fucking handsome
like
in this
a
movie.
star.
It is
It's great.
insane how good he looks in this
He is
film.
Yeah.
beautiful.
He's a good
Few
looking
people
guy.
have ever photographed better. He's like Marlena Dietrich. I'm telling you.
He's a good looking guy.
He looks really good.
He looks
and,
really
and
good.
they
He's
play it up
popping
to
off
that
the
scene
screen.
where he's eating fast food in the hotel
Yeah.
with Wayne Knight. He is shirtless.
Yeah.
No, he
They know.
he is. But I'll say this about Michael Jordan: he's one of those people that is so famous that when you see him, it's partly you're like, yeah, this is a good looking guy. He's in shape, yada yada.
Right.
But you're also just kind of like, wow, that's Michael Jordan. Like,
It feels
look
like looking
him.
at Bugs Bunny. It's the same
It
thing
really
where
is.
it's like that's a stamp.
He had such
Yeah.
a notorious profile, like literally, just literally.
Well, it's almost like if you're in a relationship with someone for a long time, and
Right.
like it's not the same as when you first saw them.
right,
You know what I mean?
exactly.
You're just like,
You're
oh no, that's Michael. He's
Michael Jordan.
You know.
I mean,
Right.
one of the
No one looks
craziest.
like Michael Jordan because
I'm
he's
sure
Michael
the
Jordan.
first
Yes.
time I heard someone say Michael Jordan was handsome, I was like,
Yeah, right.
I guess so.
Fine, yeah, I don't
he's
know.
a
I mean,
handsome athlete.
But watching
Like,
this now,
good
you're
at
like,
basketball.
that's one of the reasons he was so big. Was he was just like a perfectly symmetrical man.
Yes.
Would you say that Michael Jackson or Michael Jordan, who was the more famous person at this time?
At
Are
this
they-
time,
at the-
Jordan.
Jordan, right?
At his peak, Jackson.
Yeah, I think at this time you would probably say Jordan, just because Jackson was
on
kind
the
of,
downswing.
Yeah,
But I'm just
he
like, I
hadn't
guess
released an
I'm
album
trying
in
to
a
say,
couple
like,
years.
how big of a world superstar was he?
He was such a world superstar. He was the way the NBA, marketed itself around the world.
And the NBA
Became a
famously
global
was
brand.
not popular in any other countries up until he became a guy.
Oh, okay.
Pretty much.
I was going to say, you were
Trying
saying
to-
how famous he was and his profile was famous and all of that.
Right.
The craziest flex of like Jordan's power was the Michael Jordan cologne, which at the time everyone thought was a joke, sold so fucking well. And the logo for that bottle was his head from front on in silhouette, and you recognized it. It was just a bald head with ears and a neck, and you were like, that's Michael Jordan's head.
Right.
It wasn't even in profile the bridge of his nose or anything. Like, it was insane how much the iconography of him as a person was ingrained into
well,
our
and this
culture.
is also is not as big as the cologne, but also to Dave's earlier point, for a guy who spent his entire career kicking the shit out of the Knicks, to just open a steakhouse in New York.
Yeah.
So it's like, I want that guy's steaks.
Flock to
You know?
it in Grand Central.
Yeah, in
This
Grand
is the
Central.
thing.
Yeah,
I mean, and he did kick the shit out of the Knicks.
he did.
Whatever, man. John Starks dunked on him, and that's like one of the greatest moments in my entire life.
Well, of course, I know, and I was
Well,
there
and
with
that's
you
an
when it
important.
happened.
Michael Jordan retires. The Knicks go to the finals.
The Knicks go to the finals, but then we lose. Fucking Rockets. And like that was like the most devastating moment of my
It's
young
really
life.
tough for me. I had a tough week.
And then
How are the Knicks these days?
Oh,
I mean,
God.
they're horrible.
Well,
but
hold
like,
on.
horrible.
Let's let Griffin take this.
No, I think we can say it in unison.
Sure.
they're very bad, but
They're very bad.
are committing at least to being bad,
I like the
rebuilding
commitment
slowly,
to
not trading draft
badness,
picks.
and they're going at a moderate
They've
pace.
given me that line before, but at least it seems like
This
they're
isn't
going
the
to
So
do
they're
first
it.
time
building
I've
up the
gotten that
franchise
line.
again.
Supposedly, but we're still owned by
allegedly, but a lunatic owns us.
The Knicks are hoping they can get enough good young players, and they can keep their owner enough just sort of playing music at
Placated.
City Winery
He's
and
gotta
not
be
talking
playing at
that
City
they can
Winery.
attract
Yeah.
an established star to come play with their young
We
guys.
need a
and be
star.
good.
We need an established
Can
star.
I actually talk for a second? So I have this theory, James. So
Yeah.
I think that everyone in the NBA just does what LeBron does. LeBron just sets the pattern every single time. So when
But of
he
course.
builds his super team, people become into super teams, right?
Yes.
Everyone's into super
Love
teams.
him. My favorite.
And like he goes back to Cleveland, and then there's that whole narrative of like, oh, maybe should people go back to their hometowns? Is there the hometown narrative?
I'm always selling that
And
narrative.
now that he's going to the Lakers, the new narrative, in my opinion, is like you need to rebuild the solid gold franchises at the end.
Can I turn this 30?
Like that's why Durant and Irving are all being attached to the Knicks.
Can I turn this 30 degrees?
Yeah, turn it.
I agree.
Yeah, let's
But
flip
I would say it as I think LeBron gives everyone else permission to do what they already want to do. So
Right.
They don't follow him.
Exactly.
He does the things that people
He
are like,
sets the
I'd
tone.
love to
He's
do that,
setting
but
the
am I
tone.
going to
He's
get
a
hammered for doing this?
tone-setter.
And he
Yeah.
does it.
And now everyone's like, well, yeah, right.
I mean, we're
so
just
I feel like
Right.
if someone like Durant or Irving goes to the Knicks,
It'd have to be Durant or
like
Irving.
it would be
like that.
it would be implausible because the Knicks are bad.
I could never see it happen.
And they're horribly
It's
run.
Knicks
But he could
not
give that
well
argument
run.
of like, look, the Knicks are so important to the NBA. I want to be the guy who makes them good again.
He
Like,
must be the
Can I
guy.
say
and
this?
people will buy that.
I-
and people never used to buy that.
Emotionally, I agree with you. I actually don't think it's implausible. I think we're so ashamed of ourselves.
I
think it's plausible.
I think
So
it's
ashamed.
plausible. I think we just feel really bad about ourselves, and we think, oh, well,
down
they're
in the
not actually
dumps.
going to come.
My
You know,
thing
they
is
wouldn't
also
come.
like it's like if say Kyrie came, he'll just like get injured and
And
be
that's
injured
my
the whole
idea
time.
too.
That's
I would
how
say
I
that's
feel
my
about
thing
it.
his
too.
limbs
Yeah.
will be splattered.
But-
yeah.
Yeah.
It's better than it was.
Uncle Drew
That's
is
how I feel
out
about the
on
Knicks
VOD
right now.
now.
It's definitely better.
It
than
was
it
so
Drew.
rock bottom. Like training for Bargnani, that was my rock bottom with the
I will
Knicks.
just finish this. There's a dumb narrative, mostly forwarded by the local
dumb.
sports press in New York, that
Sure.
you can't rebuild in New York.
Yeah,
Oh,
which
the
is
fans
stupid.
won't do
Yeah,
it.
they won't
do it. No, of course they'll do it. They're just they're obsessive, and if you give them any sort of hope, they love it.
And
It's
Uncle
great.
Drew
People
was
love.
sort of seen as a disappointment at the domestic box office, but when you look at the actual production costs, it's pretty good. Pretty good profit maker. He'll do
Are we
well
talking?
on
What are we
VOD.
talking about right now?
Basketball. We're all talking basketball.
The
We're all
Knicks
talking the
definitely make a
exact same
profit.
things. Yeah, no, definitely Uncle Drew. So first 30 minutes, I think pretty good domestic sports comedy. You got Joe Pica, who was like the dominant commercial director of his time.
Right.
Joe Pica, who like won the DGA Lifetime Achievement Award a year ago, never made another feature. Hated
He'd
making
made
this.
one movie before this.
Oh, really? What was it?
Let me find the name of it. Let
Lawrence
It
of
Ride.
Arabia? Okay.
Richard Dreyfuss, Terry Garr.
When was that?
1989.
Okay, so some time in between.
It's a light comedy about a gambler who experiences his day where he wins every bet he places.
Oh. And then he met Michael Jordan, and Michael
Pretty
Jordan
much.
was like, big fan of your movie.
I like that movie.
Yeah.
It was a good movie.
Teach me.
All right, so Joe Pica, right.
Directed all the Jordan commercials. When other basketball players started going into sponsorship, in rewatching the movie for this podcast, I chose to watch it with commentary, which I had never done before. And the commentary for this movie is insane.
Really? Is it by Pica?
This is early days of DVD when I think they're still experimenting.
Okay.
The commentary is Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck, but also Billy West and D. Bradley Baker, who played the voices of Bunny and Duck in this movie. But also they're like, sometimes this guy Joe Pica's going to come in and say something. It's clear that they recorded a commentary track with Pica, and he didn't have enough to say to fill up the entire movie, which is only 71 minutes
It's
long.
not a long movie.
So then they recorded West and Baker doing bits as the characters, and that also didn't sustain itself.
So they kind of just
So
chopped
the
it all
voice
together.
actors host it, and every once in a while, they literally do creak. Hey, it's Joe Pica again. And then he offers a fact, and they act like he's walking in and out of the studio for the commentary to get into really dry
So you're telling me that
technical
you
talk.
did the Foley work on this director's
It
commentary?
sounds like me doing a dumb fucking bit. And he comes in and just
we don't
talks
do
about
bits on this podcast. I
compositing.
don't know what you're talking
Ding
about.
dong, ding dong. Oh, let me. Hello,
Hello.
it's me, Daffy Duck.
Great. Sure.
Here to do a commentary.
Sued for copyright infringement.
And it's me, Sylvester. A very different, distinctive voice.
Hello.
Oh, it's Marvin the Martian.
I'm here as well. What are you guys here to talk about?
Hymns.
You're here to talk about the wellness brand for men that helps with sexual performance issues?
I have erectile dysfunction.
All right. Well,
Suffering succotash.
so you know that 25% of new ED cases are guys under 40.
Or ducks over 75.
Or Martians. I don't know if I can do this.
Come on, Sam's.
Fine. 40% of men aged 40 struggle from not being able to get and maintain an erection. Even the world's greatest actor
Me, Tweety Bird.
can't fake one. So you go to forhims.com. It's a one-stop shop for hair loss, skincare, sexual wellness for men that can connect you with real doctors and give you medical-grade solutions to treat ED or other problems.
You're saying it'll take care of my droopy penis?
Which one are you?
Elmer Fudd, of course. You can see me in the studio.
Yeah, Elmer, we're going to get you some well-known generic equivalents to name-brand prescriptions to help you combat ED. So there's no snake oil pills or gas station counter supplements. It's prescription solutions backed by science.
I say, that sounds like a great deal for my penis.
You're Foghorn Leghorn. You're not John Hamm in Bad Times at the El Royale.
It's a very thin line, but yes, indeed.
So there's no waiting room. There's no awkward in-person doctor visits, no lines. You save hours. You just go to forhims.com and you can try it for a month today for just $5. We'll get you started for just $5 while supplies last. You can see the website for full details. This would cost hundreds if you went to the doctor or a pharmacy.
Oh, BD.
Oh, it's Speedy Gonzalez?
Pepe Le Pew.
Pepe Le Pew?
And now it's me, and I'm not going to say anything because already I feel bad about speaking on mic.
BD's cousin Slowpoke.
Oh, it's Slowpoke Rodriguez. God, this feels terrible.
All of you go to forhims.com/blank. That's forhims.com/blank. Forhims.com/blank. You can try it for a month today. For $5.
mais oui, and now it is me, Pepe Le Pew.
Get out of here.
Okay.
You're not welcome here.
And I just want to quickly remind any animation producers listening to this podcast to hire me for no reason whatsoever. So the commentary is insane. And Joe Pitka, when he occasionally walks in, will talk about how he's best friends with every basketball player in the movie because he worked with all of them previously. And at the very beginning of the commentary, he goes, people ask me, so you directed this movie? And I say, parts of it.
Weird.
Because he didn't direct the animation.
Oh, okay.
And also, I think Ivan Reitman kind of took over this movie.
Interesting.
The first 30 minutes definitely feel like they're directed by a commercial director because it has that thing where like every single shot is the most dynamic shot imaginable. Like a lot of canted angles and like extreme wide lens close-ups.
Okay.
Like it looks like a commercial. It's very like...
Yeah, it's very colorful.
And
then
poppy.
Those scenes of him, like you're saying, like returning to his home, like in the dog and stuff, that just feels like MTV video shit or like you're about to be sold a board game or something.
And a lot of like snappy comedy. Like everyone he talks to is some day player who's like raring to go. The guy's in the dugout. I mean, Wayne Knight obviously is like a ringer. And
can we talk about that for a second?
Yeah.
Do you think Wayne Knight auditioned for this, or is that an offer?
I think that's a
situation?
straight offer. Because you have to think at this point, Wayne Knight was running the table on the 90s.
Yeah, because he's late in Seinfeld.
Right. Then he goes to Jurassic Park.
Right.
Then he's on Seinfeld and not Mad About You. Third Rock from the Sun.
Yeah.
He's on both of them at the same time.
Well, Third Rock starts this year.
Okay.
96. But yes.
He's huge. I think they wrote like think Wayne Knight in parentheses.
This is. And, you know, I mean, he is number 2 on the call sheet, no doubt.
No question. Right, because he's third billed in the movie behind Jordan and Bunny.
But Bunny is first billed.
In the opening credits.
Yeah.
In the poster, it was swapped.
No, it wasn't. Bugs Bunny, Michael Jordan. Bugs Bunny is top billed, which is, in my opinion, weird.
Yeah.
2 reasons. 1, Michael Jordan, very famous and a real person.
I think Jordan's number 1 in the credits thing, because I know it's the opposite.
And number 2... Jordan's in more of the movie. Like that's the real beef I have with it. Like,
there's another argument for Jordan being first billed is that he's an actual person.
I mentioned that. Yes, very famous real person.
Right.
Got those 2 things
real.
going for him.
Right.
But also, like, Bugs doesn't come in for a while. And this is a short movie.
This is a very short movie.
It's not a long movie. Quite short.
It's like a one-reeler.
Because this is a movie, like, if it was a real sports movie, like if it was Hoosiers, they would play a lot of games. They would suck at first.
Not only is this a short movie, but there is an hour of setup.
Right.
Right. So, if you watch the first hour, you're like, this might be like a 2.5-hour movie.
Right. Because
you really
they're going to have to, like,
they're
play
going
a
to
season
they're going to get in there. And,
yeah, right.
I timed it.
They're going to practice. They're going to be like, well, I want this. I'm the one. No, I'm the one. You know,
all that Hoosiers shit.
Yeah. I literally timed it from the moment when they finish introducing the players at the big game to when it's halftime is 5 minutes.
Right.
5 minutes elapse in the first half of the game.
Well, because honestly, the Monstars are kind of dramatically inert because they're just like big monsters that crush you at basketball. Like, it's like they're not that interesting to watch if they're just beating you.
Has any line summed up our podcast better than, I mean, let's be honest, the Monstars are dramatically inert.
Yeah, that's a great line by me.
Yeah, no, they're just dominant. And so it's like once they figure out how to beat them, the movie's over. So like the game is mostly a series of like blackout gags of them getting beaten.
Well, I was going to say, isn't it interesting that they had to go steal NBA players' talent just so that they could beat the shit out of Looney Tunes? They do not play basketball. They do not play basketball at all.
No.
They just crush
They just
people.
hit them.
Why couldn't they just go get the talent of,
Well, this gets
a strong person.
WWE wrestlers?
Or why not just hire the other players?
But why-
Much as Bugs hires Michael Jordan.
but why
basically.
not have them play basketball?
I
Why
know,
not
I
have
know.
you see like
I agree.
You don't know, and you don't know which.
This movie is a failure as a basketball movie in terms of
I
like
think so.
There's not a lot of fundamentals. On
Well,
display
something else
here.
I noticed too.
Yeah,
Michael Jordan playing basketball in this movie.
mediocre. So.
That looked like 60% at most.
Yeah,
I
well,
mean,
you
you know, because just the way he was cutting, the way he was dribbling,
Yeah,
that was not an intense.
And then you cut to the real footage of him at the end,
And he's playing.
and you're like, oh yeah, like
Yeah.
Michael Jordan. All right,
And the
Griffin,
opening
you got
credits.
the credits.
Yes, I'm pulling it up right now. The thing I wanted to say is that in this movie...
Great opening credits, just a point of fact.
Yes.
Like,
This was filmed in a summer in between seasons.
Yeah.
Right? This was right after the season he had come back into late.
yes. He comes back in 1995.
Bugs Bunny is second build in the opening credits. First
Go
build
on,
on
keep
the
going,
poster.
keep going.
I'm going backwards. Michael Jordan.
That's so weird. Why did I think of it the other way?
Because
then?
the poster has it flipped.
All right,
That's
fine.
why.
Well, that's how it should be.
Uh-huh.
Because Bugs Bunny doesn't get as much screen time in this movie.
Agreed.
So that's good.
Yes.
So why is Bugs Bunny first bill on the poster then?
I mean, look, he had a better track record at the box office at that point in time.
I guess so.
And better agents. He had Mike Ovitz.
There's the forgotten end of 95 season where Jordan comes back
Right.
and they lose to the Magic. Like, they don't even make the final.
Right.
And they were hoping they could juice just at the end of the season to get to the championship, and they don't, right? So
Yeah.
he apparently had a big complex where he was like, I need to really come back hard this season, prove people I haven't lost a step.
Right.
So he agrees to do this movie, but on a very tight schedule, which is one of the reasons they wrote in the other basketball players who he's stolen the power from. So they had other live action actors they could cut to once he's in Looney Tune world.
Right.
He would only shoot until lunch.
Right.
They built the soundstage, which is just a green screen space.
Right.
They had actors who were not the voice actors, who sort of were improv actors, who would play the parts against him. And then they had really big stunt guys who'd play the Monstars.
Sure.
But it wasn't real basketball, right? It was
it's
like
cartoons.
choreographed. Right, exactly. But they also...
It's largely a cartoon.
It wasn't real basketball, right?
Right.
I just want to clear up with you guys. I'm
It
obviously a basketball
they
expert, I
actually
know. But,
just filmed a game. Yeah, it was just a regular game.
Right.
Yeah, they played the Monstars.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
but the crazy thing is, part of Michael Jordan's negotiation was they had to build a full, proper regulation NBA court on the Warner Brothers backlot
Interesting.
because he needed to use any downtime he
Right.
had.
To practice.
Right, to
get in
practice.
shape. Yeah.
And he would go to the gym at lunch.
Is that the court we see?
No.
Okay.
No, the court you see in the movie is 100% CGI.
Weird.
Anytime he's on the court, it's him in a much smaller CGI space with actors.
Right.
They built a full court that was never utilized on camera, that was his contractual demand so that he could play ball and be ready for the season, not miss a step.
Right.
So he would only work a couple hours a day.
Good for him.
But the other thing was, any other actors who were working on movies at the Warner Brothers lot at that summer were like, this is my chance to play basketball against Michael Jordan.
Sure.
So like famously, like George Clooney played against him
Right.
when they were doing Batman and Robin.
But he would just murder you.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing. I think he wouldn't be like, oh, let me take it easy on you because you're George
he would-
Clooney.
No, and he was, like,
block
training.
a kid.
Right, he'd just
yeah,
be
I mean,
like,
he's that
fuck
kind of
you.
yeah.
Right, yeah.
Right, but that was like the thing was like, oh my God, I get my chance to say that like Jordan dunked on me, you know?
Well, and that's part of what is going on with, I assume, with the casting of this film too. I
Yeah.
mean, Murray says, "I want to be there." Right?
Murray's part was not written into the script. I should say my intel on all of this is
Please.
Film Draft Day, directed by Evan Reitman, produced by Joe Magic, his main partner.
This film was produced by Reitman.
And Reitman was really kind of a key creative force behind this movie. Once they had the idea, because it was there had
He's got
been
his fingerprints all over it.
yes, there had been a commercial with Bugs Bunny and Michael Jordan. That was a Super Bowl ad, I believe.
Yeah.
That did really well. And then they were like, oh fuck, let's just make a movie out of that.
The 90s.
Right. And so they were like, we should make it actually funny. Let's get Ivan Reitman. He's like the top comedy guy right now. And they were sort of instrumental in overseeing all of it.
Right.
I, about a year before this, had started doing a routine where I would do an impression of the guy who pitched Space Jam.
It's a good routine.
Which got me into the Montreal Just for Laughs Festival in a very weird turn of events because I was not qualified to get in otherwise. I hadn't done that much work and I wasn't performing regularly at any theaters or any of that.
Right.
But that routine ended up being kind of my entry into the industry, which then led to 9 months later me getting cast in Draft Day, which I would say was a straight line in terms of me running off the momentum of having gotten into that festival.
Right.
I was doing stand-up routines while filming Draft Day because I wasn't working every day.
You became a sports-based entertainer for about 2 to 3 years. Yeah.
Right. But that was like my money bit. I would try to get up and do like unpaid featured spots at the comedy clubs in Cleveland while we were filming Draft Day.
Okay.
And one day, Joe Magic, producer, comes to set, leaves set early to come see me do my act, which at the end ended with Space Jam as a closer.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, fuck, he's in the audience. He's going to be insulted by this.
Right.
Because the bit was, it's a dude on a week-long cocaine bender who thinks he's about
Coming
to be
up
fired.
with the stupidest idea in the world.
On the verge of a mental
Right.
breakdown. And he just starts screaming and ripping his clothes off.
Yeah.
And saying that he can get the movie produced by the next Monday.
Right.
And it's just like stream of consciousness, meltdown stuff. And he came up to me afterwards and he went, Griffin, I produced Space Jam.
Uh-huh.
And I was like,
I know.
Yeah, I know. And he was
Sorry.
like, I know the guy who pitched the movie. And I was like, yeah. And he went, pretty accurate. And I went out to drinks with him for 2.5 hours and just pumped him.
Right.
And one of the things he told me was Murray was not written to the script at all.
Okay.
They wanted the movie to be funnier.
Sure.
They had Wayne Knight, which is the reason why the Wayne Knight character was created, which makes me
'cause
think
he's just falling
written
over
for
and
him,
stuff. Right.
big comedic, type
I get it.
of the time. Okay, we want a little more comedy in here.
Yeah.
Reitman, obviously very good friends with Bill Murray, frequent collaborator.
Sure.
He knows that Murray is obsessed with
basketball. He loves the Bulls.
Chicago guy,
guy.
hadn't met
Chicago
Jordan
guy.
up until
Right.
this point.
Right.
And he says, look, Jordan likes golf. You love golf. We're going to do a golf scene. You come, you improvise, do whatever you want
Just
for a
do
day.
some shit. Right.
By the way, in addition to gambling, golf also a big part of a lot of the Jordan lore. Like
Yes.
36 holes before a game,
Right.
0 for 16 in the first half. His wrist is sore.
Right.
Comes out in the second half, figures it out,
Right.
wins. That's
So they say, hey, Murray, you can come, you can improvise for a day, do whatever the fuck you want. They end up getting a lot of usable stuff, which is why the golf sequence is so long, because he has like 4 or 5 good bits.
Well, and also Larry Bird is there.
Which is he's friends with Jordan and Pitka had worked with. I mean, it was like this correlation of like
How do we
all
feel
these
about
things.
Bird's performance?
Unbelievable.
I think it's good too. I do. I think it's really good.
He's sort of playing into his image as well, which is sort of like the stiff, like the kind of like
Well, and a little bit of I do not want to be here.
a bit of a like
that sort of.
And Murray's great
Kind of a
line
jerk.
in this movie, which is like one of our big family jokes that we quote all the time. Murray keeps on pitching to everyone. The NBA is going through a crisis.
Right,
Players
right,
are dropping left and right. You're going to need new talent from exciting and unexpected places.
Sure.
And everyone keeps on going, Bill, it's not going to happen. Right? He thinks he's going to get drafted. And Michael rejects him. And he goes, is this because I'm white?
Mm-hmm.
And Jordan goes, no, Larry's white. And he goes, Michael, Larry's not white. Larry's clear.
It's good. It's a good line.
It's great. No scripted dialogue, no role for this film.
Right.
They shot that. The end of the film, the way they were going to beat the Monstars was Roadrunner, which is why Roadrunner never takes the court the entire
He's
film.
not in it. Yeah.
They were like, they need some special thing to push them over the edge.
Which in a lot of way makes more sense than what happens because
Yes.
the Monstars amass a massive lead beating
Right.
the shit out of the Tunes and then stop beating the shit out of the
They
Tunes.
kind of keep the score a little secret. I feel like for this very reason, like it, right? Yeah. Go on.
No, you cannot account
Yeah.
for the
You cannot keep
comeback.
track of the game in this movie.
Yeah.
They
at
make
all.
a couple baskets and it's tied. They
Right.
were down 60. But Roadrunner at least all right, you're at halftime, you're on the whiteboard, you're saying how do we match up with them?
Right.
Let's get Roadrunner, too
One
fast.
problem though,
What?
no hands. He does lack hands.
Maybe.
I guess he'd use his wings.
Or his beak or whatever.
All right.
Yeah.
Just you could run to another spot
Yeah.
on the court and
You
then
could
kind
kinda
of
like-
flip the ball to
Yeah,
someone
you
else.
could kind of bounce
Diversion.
it in. Right. Yeah.
The Monstars are big and oafish. So that was like one advantage they
Right,
would have
Steve,
if they
right.
had like clear, and they didn't want to bring Speedy Gonzalez back because he was sensitive, which is why I kicked him out of the studio immediately because I don't want that on my
Yeah,
show.
sensitive is one word for it.
Yes, a sensitive subject. And at the last minute, they were like, oh, fuck, you know what we should do? We should just have Bill Murray come back, which is why Roadrunner has almost no presence in the movie.
Sure.
Because he was designed to be saved for the end.
Right.
They called him up. They were like, can you come tomorrow? Which is why Murray has that joke where they're like, how did you get here? And he's like, producers are friend. He called me up, had a Teamster come drop me off here. They like the story, the craziest element of production of this movie was trying to get him a jersey overnight because the only physical jerseys they had were the ones for Jordan.
Or Jordan, and he's Murray. I mean, I don't know his height.
Right. Different. I would say a different height than Michael
Smaller,
Jordan.
Probably.
The joke is that he's number 22, right? That he's only one less.
Right. He's, you know what? He's 6'2". So
Bill
he's
Murray
not that
is
much shorter
6'2"?
than. He's not that much shorter than. This is weird. Chevy Chase 6'4", Dan Aykroyd 6'1". Those SNL guys are tall.
So fun fact, the
Yeah.
difference in height between Bill Murray and Michael Jordan, so if they were matched up, is equal to the difference in height, basically, between you and Muggsy Bogues. And Muggsy Bogues played in the NBA. If you were guarding Muggsy Bogues, the line would be significant height advantage for Griffin.
Well, that was our mother liked Muggsy Bogues because he was the only basketball player her
and
size.
this is so. Why don't we talk for a second about
the other guys?
The other guys,
because you know, in a way, I mean, Muggsy Bogues was not one of the best players in the NBA, but
the thing that Picca said was, in terms of designing the cartoon Monstars, they wanted the greatest diversity of physical types.
Right.
So it was supposed to be, we'll have a couple big, famous guys, you know, a tall guy, stocky guy, this and that. But they knew they wanted a little guy and they wanted a big guy. So Muggsy was obvious because he was the most
the shortest and
small.
tallest people in the league.
No, you know who they hired? George Mirazan.
Right. Who's the same height as Sean Brad.
And what happened is George Mirazan went on vacation.
Okay.
And they
classic Mirazan.
He just like goes back to Romania or whatever.
Right.
They, like,
and Joe
call
Picca
him.
was like, I don't know. I think he went back. There was another war there or something. Literally what he says in the commentary. He goes, that's insensitive. I don't know. Who gives a shit? He literally says that in the commentary.
I know. I don't think there were any wars in Romania.
That was the joke he made.
He is Romanian, is that right?
I believe so. I can look at it. I mean, the way his name is spelled. I can look him up.
But it was literally no one could get a hold of George Mirazan, and a week before filming, they were like, who else is tall, and got Sean Bradley, which is why Sean Bradley is innocuously in this movie.
Yeah, well, so the team that they suck the talent from is Muggsy Bogues, Charles Barkley, Larry Johnson, Patrick Ewing, Sean Bradley. So 2 centers, 2 power forwards, and a tiny point guard.
So ridiculous. And that's definitely something I picked up on.
But they use this to turn into 5 giant monsters. It's not like the monsters resemble the people at all.
Not at all.
Like, they're just 5 big monsters.
Again, if their job is to beat the shit out of people, they picked Muggsy Bogues as
who's
one
small.
of their, you know.
Did you guys pick up on the fact that the Monstars, they start out small?
They're nerd looks at that point, to be fair.
Right. They're very tiny, and you're like, I'm not intimidated by them. But then they get the talent.
They do. They just take their talent.
They get big. And I have to say, I like that transformation.
You're into the small
you like them
big.
getting big.
Yeah.
Because when they're small, you almost turn off the movie and walk off the porch.
Oh, I honestly, I was like, I mean, I love Michael, but I don't want to watch the rest of this. But then he's like, hold on. We'll fight years later from now.
Can I try to, as succinctly as possible, state the logic of this movie?
Go on.
Looney Tunes exist in a real world that somehow is also televised to our world. When
and
kids
it's in,
are watching
the
Looney
middle
Tunes,
of our planet.
It's at the core of the earth, and kids are watching Looney Tunes live, apparently.
Right. It's like, whatever they're up to is actually what is happening at that time.
The only reason Michael Jordan has retired from basketball is because he's a great man who loves his family, right?
Yeah. And his dad always wanted him to be a baseball player, I guess.
Okay, meanwhile, out in space, an alien Danny DeVito who cannot stop smoking cigars is seeing plummeting sales of his theme park.
Mr. Swackhammer.
Right. He's like alien Michael Eisner, who's like, we're not hip, this theme park sucks.
You might know, the aliens are morons? Because it's like Moron Mountain?
I'm sorry. The planet's called Moron Mountain. The aliens are called Nerdlucks because they're little nerds.
Yeah, they are little nerds.
But they're also dumb.
Right.
But the alien race is not the morons.
Okay.
I don't know what race Swackhammer is.
Right. He doesn't seem related to the Nerdlucks. They're different.
Right. It's weird how little we know about Swackhammer, considering that he becomes one of the most beloved characters in the history of animation.
Right.
But Swackhammer sees this kid mocking the park, is like, fuck this, we need a new attraction. They accidentally sit on a remote control, show the Looney Tunes, and he's like, that's it. We're going to capture them from the center of the earth to make them attractions here so that our attendance will go up.
Right.
Nerdlucks burrow into Earth. Everyone sees a spaceship fly overhead, doesn't freak the fuck out, burrows into the center. with ray guns, and they're like, we're holding you hostage, you have to come with us.
Right.
Looney Tunes make up a bullshit excuse that they can't be kidnapped unless they are beaten in a game.
Right.
They choose basketball because the Nerdlucks are short and have no arms.
Right.
Then the Nerdlucks steal ability through a magic basketball and their new Alex Mack powers to turn into puddles.
Right.
Which sends the NBA into chaos.
Yeah. Because they don't know how to play anymore.
Right. They're putting tarps over stadiums.
Can I interject for 1 second?
Yeah.
When maybe this is a reach, but did you find it interesting that basically what looks like a virus invades 5 random NBA players?
Right.
And they immediately go to the Forum in Los Angeles, where the CDC has basically shut down.
He's like fumigating it. Right.
Like what, 5 years after
refusing
Magic
to play?
Johnson had HIV?
Okay.
I thought not a single player is on the Lakers who's in,
because it's a Nick. Barkley was on the Suns at that point, right? A couple Hornets.
No, Barkley was on the Suns, 2 Hornets,
Johnson and Bogues are on the
Nick, and
Bradley was on the
Maverick,
Mavericks. Yeah.
No, it does feel very STD-ish. I don't believe that they would.
They're showing the Lakers,
random
Lakers teammates being like, I don't know, coach.
Bradley was on the Nets. He goes to the Mavericks in 97.
That was Vlade Divac, right?
Yeah, you see
Can I get 1 point for that poll?
Yeah, good job.
Thank you.
And he's good. He's good in it.
He is good. Who else is in that scene where
There's the guy,
I know that other guy's face, and I'm not sure who it is. The guy with the earring. But I don't know. That seemed a little weird to me.
It feels very weird.
Right?
It is weird.
It's also weird that they really deal with the fallout of it as if there's a virus only affecting basketball
I don't
players.
think anyone's watching this movie being... Right, it's weird that they go to the Forum. Yeah, I get what you're saying, right? That's where they pick to fumigate first.
But the one brilliant piece of plotting is because Michael Jordan has retired from basketball, they don't steal his talent.
Ahmad Rashad, Del Harris, right? Yes, I know it's weird.
That's the one
part of the subplot
the
of the film
idea is that he's retired,
and people are like, he might not have talent anymore.
Right?
He might. He's like, you still got it.
They thought he was
MJ?
a baseball player.
Right.
It's funny. Paul Westphal, Danny Ainge. Here's some of the basketball players.
So
that pop up.
the Looney Tunes have to steal Michael Jordan, who agrees to abandon his family and his professional obligations for no reason, having no skin in the game because his kids like the Looney Tunes.
Sure.
Kind of.
Yeah, he essentially promises to take their place, near the end of the movie.
Why?
Yeah, I know. He didn't really have to do that.
They cut to a cartoon nightmare sequence where Michael Jordan is literally in chains.
And doing autographs until he dies.
A correlation there.
Yeah.
Please.
This movie comes out in 96. I believe in 01. Michael Jordan tentatively agrees to go to North Korea to see Kim Jong-un and backs out of fear of being kidnapped and enslaved, essentially, by the Korean leader who was obsessed with the Bulls.
Right. And that's when Rodman starts going over in North Korea, right? Yeah.
Right. Who essentially if in a world where he kidnapped Michael Jordan, it would have been,
he would have taken that place. Yeah, that is fascinating.
In 2001.
Yeah.
Do you think Kim Jong-un saw Space Jam and he was like, finally, a strategy?
It's Kim Jong-il.
Kim Jong-il. But do you think he saw this movie and was like, well, there's a blueprint for how I get him here?
Yeah, right.
Probably.
Yeah.
It's in line with a lot of the...
Smoke some cigars, open a theme park.
Danny DeVito's character also gets a massage during the game. Did you?
Yes.
There's also that weird cut to Dan Castellaneta and Patricia Heaton. What's that about?
Yeah.
Weird scene.
Especially weird that she's not sitting in the middle.
Now it's pre-middle.
I know. I thought she'd call her shot. Yeah, but that's like
that's like a weird scene.
They're freaked out by the Nerdlucks in a trench coat, which is played off like he's some sort of weird masturbating flasher. Like, right? That is the joke.
This guy is doing weird things.
Yes. Right. And in a trench coat and their lumps moving around and all of that.
So they steal all their...
Well, it's funny when they lose their talent, they also show how they can't, I just really like the...
Patrick Ewing is really good at being bad.
I have a question. As a Knicks fan, how did you feel about them questioning Patrick Ewing's virility?
I mean,
which is, by the way,
it's a great scene.
It's an adult moment in a kid's movie.
Yes,
it is. And also, not only is just that the question, just the idea of a Freudian analyst is an adult moment. Even though I think when you're a kid, that is your image of a shrink is like a sort of bearded guy with a German accent.
In a red leather chair.
Yeah, and there's a big, Charles
Barkley jokes about dating Madonna.
Yes.
Muggsy gets very defensive about his mother.
So Barkley's very good in this.
Barkley,
he's a funny guy.
Great. Yeah. He's so charismatic.
I think
he's the only one of the NBA players to get single card billing, and they give him more to do.
And he has his own scene. I assume they used him a little, and were like, okay, this guy
rules. I find that scene actually emotionally affecting, where he plays street ball.
Yeah,
the kid is excellent in that scene. Who goes, "Go on, get out of here."
Yeah,
you know,
I like the
you're
logic.
Not Charles Barkley. You're just another wannabe.
I was such a big Barkley fan because he was in the West. The Knicks didn't have to deal with him as much. I just loved him. Like,
he
I
also
loved
been
his
knighted
attitude.
at that point.
Excuse me,
Sir Charles.
It's
a gentleman.
But just to answer your initial, I think they used Patrick for that scene because Patrick just has such a good reaction face.
Yeah,
like his he just is good at furrowing his brow. He's got such a big forehead.
Funny. And like Barkley, Ewing, and Jordan, Pitka had worked with so much that he knew how to get like funny out of those guys. He knew how to make them comfortable. But even when you're watching the montage on TV and Sean Bradley is doing that weird like staccato walk where they've like lost their rhythm.
They don't even know how to drink anymore.
Right. I would say in a movie that stretches, basically like 3 setups out real long.
Real thing.
I would say this is one that could have been longer.
Yeah,
I would have liked to have seen more.
This is the most purely funny stuff in the movie, is basketball players don't know how to play basketball anymore.
It's always funny, them missing the pass or whatever to like hits their face. And even that whole montage with
them, with the therapist, them and the doctors, like all that shit.
Barkley in church.
Good. Yeah. Promising never to date Madonna.
Yeah. And then I don't know what's happening with the Looney Tunes.
Then it goes deep into the Looney Tunes thing.
All right, so I don't like the Looney Tunes. All right, I don't hate them, but like I would watch Looney Tunes when I was a kid, but I never was like an obsessive about them.
They're the greatest comedians of all time. You're bad taste.
Cool.
You're a Philistine.
No, I got no beef, but it's just like, so when they're doing Looney Tunes stuff in this, I think even when I was a kid, I was just like, oh, right, now they do Looney Tunes stuff. But according to you, this is bad Looney Tunes stuff. Well, it seems bad.
There are a couple weird factors. I mean, on one hand, the people directing the animation clearly were big fans, and like all the background characters they put in are like deep cuts. And there's certain visual gags, like when the scoreboard is like, it's tough to watch, ain't it, folks?
Right.
Like things like that feel very much
those
of
are
the
classic,
voice.
Right, yeah.
But the weird thing is, Warner Brothers had like in-house people who usually did the voices for these things. And they weren't producing that many new cartoons. They weren't doing new features or any of that, but they put them in commercials and shit, right? Sure. Mel Blanc famously used to do every single male Looney Tune voice.
Crazy.
He was the greatest voiceover artist of all time, and he did all of them.
Right.
And when he died, which was late 80s, I want to say,
I can look it up.
it was always scattered of like, this guy does 2, this guy does 3, this
89
and that.
he does.
Yes. Year I was born. Wow. For this movie, all the regular guys... Humble brag. All the regular guys assumed they were going to get the roles. And because Ivan Reitman was coming in, and they're thumbs-upping each other on the humble brag.
Reitman comes in.
And was like, no, we'll cast funny people.
Okay.
So they suddenly threw out everyone who had done the voices normally and just auditioned like everyone.
Okay.
And so it's like Billy West and D. Bradley Baker and all these people who hadn't played the Looney Tunes before.
But they're voice actors.
Right.
Yeah.
And they do the voices well, but also they hadn't really lived in those characters. And they were like, just improvise a bunch of shit. The script doesn't matter. Just improvise a bunch of shit.
Right.
So there's a lot of the scripted jokes that the Looney Tunes have are improvised by very cynical voice actors, which are why there's so many meta jokes about the industry. There's that argument they have about them not getting a cut of the licensing.
Right.
There's the thing where Daffy like kisses the Warner Brothers branding on his ass. They like shit on Disney.
Sure.
There's like a lot of like inside baseball, like Hollywood stuff that kind of fucking sucks. That was just like voice actors riffing. And in that commentary track, they're like, yeah, I'm surprised they kept all of this in. And also just putting them in, like putting Elmer Fudd with like a headband and having him be like a cool baller feels like those dumb fucking sweatshirts where it's like, here's Taz with crisscross backwards jeans.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. But kids liked it.
Kids
I would argue, though, that Daffy, his bits are really good.
Daffy kills it in this movie.
Daffy kills it.
And they just understand the Daffy bottom of the totem pole thing.
Right.
The bit when he comes out and the audience promptly stops cheering.
Yeah, that's really
is great.
Funny.
That's good.
Right. Like stuff like that is fun. But then you also just have like when he like dresses up like Rodman, like there's just some of that shit is dumb. And Lola is the worst. Lola is like one of the grossest, crassest, like we don't understand women. This is targeted marketing characters of all time. Her characterization is she comes in, everyone acts like they want to fuck her. They give her awooga eyes, right? Then they say doll.
Yeah.
And then her only
like,
bit of
doll,
characterization is doll makes her so angry she dunks.
Yeah.
Well, they also make them. They seem very proud of the fact that after all that, like they didn't think she could play,
Right.
but she can.
Right,
You know,
they're like,
there's a
look,
real
look how
a meal out of
progressive we
that.
are. The
Yeah.
woman is good at basketball and she's tough.
Right.
And then I feel like she just doesn't come up again. I mean, she's there.
There's the moment where Bugs almost dies and she gets emotional because
Yeah.
apparently they're in love.
No,
No,
they're
he
two bunnies.
he saves her.
Oh, right.
He saves her.
Right, and then almost gets crushed in the process. Does
Right.
get crushed, almost dies. That's when they play "For You I Will," the love theme from Space Jam.
Yeah. By Monica, yes.
Yes, it's a shitty character.
Yeah, it's a shitty character. Anyway, after that, they play the Monstars.
Yeah, the game.
It's not like there's like anything else.
No, the game lasts 10 minutes. There's no training montage.
No.
The closest they get is the scene where they have to clean up the court.
Right.
But like every
Oh, the
sports,
spit shine.
yeah, it's kind of
That's
fun.
funny.
Yeah.
They spit a bunch, David.
Uh-huh.
They're all like, oh, we are going to clean this up. And then Taz spins around
It
and
says
it's like,
lemony fresh. Like all those jokes are very like.
That's
Here's
good.
Billy West on a bunch of coke, like riffing shit.
you know what
Right.
sucked? The voice actor for Foghorn.
Not very good.
Not good.
No.
Not a good. There was like, I love Foghorn and like there was not a lot of good
Yeah.
stuff.
One could say I did it better in this very episode. John Hamm does it better.
Bill
Bad Times
Farmer.
at the El Royale. Oh, who's not a bad voiceover in
Who
general.
also does Sylvester.
Yeah.
And Yosemite Sam.
But the first half of the game takes 5 minutes. It's literally just a series of blackout gags of them getting
Yosemite
physically
Sam
attacked.
is weird. Because he's a mustache, but then the hair goes all the way around his eyes.
Well, it's
weird.
tough when he has the hat off to render him.
Right.
Because the idea is that his face is mostly obscured in shadow under
but
the
like,
hat.
there's like hair. It just sort of keeps going.
He's got big eyebrows.
He's got eyebrows.
I know, but it links. Like one's eyebrows do not link. James is giving this a real furrowed
Yeah.
sort of like.
One could say he's almost linking his eyebrows in frustration
Right.
looking at him.
But you don't link your eyebrows to your damn mustache.
No, he also looks kind of like Gossamer. Famous Looney Tunes monster Gossamer. Hair monster Gossamer.
Oh, sure.
Right. Yes. Right. Okay.
We don't know Gossamer.
Yeah, he's the big red thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great character.
I'm gonna look up Google Yosemite Sam without hat.
It looks bad. You don't want to see it. You won't like it. I mean, doesn't he take his hat off in this movie?
Does he?
There's the weird Pulp Fiction reference where he and Elmer Fudd suddenly become Vince and Jules and shoot one of the monster's teeth out of his head.
I guess he just has more hair.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Got it.
That the Pulp Fiction thing is weird, right?
But that's like the hot movie from the kids would
That's
remember,
the
I
stuff that
guess.
sucks for me.
Oh, no,
It's
it
just like
definitely
them
sucks.
referencing commercial campaigns and
Right.
brand loyalty and all of that. But it was them trying to like boost these characters.
Also, why
into
is Marvin a
prestige.
referee? He's a Looney Tune.
Yes.
Seems
Well, now you're
biased.
you might be
Impartial.
going too deep.
This is is this like
Well, I don't
This
know.
is the
Listeners,
conspiracy.
careful what
like-
you say.
Right,
Someone might
right,
knock
right.
on your door, Dave.
Well, I
Right.
mean, there's a bit of a conflict of interest because he is a Looney Tune, but also they're playing against aliens. So you could see how they'd be like, you know, you don't want to fight against your own guys.
He's unbiased.
Right.
Yeah.
He's unbiased. Nerdlucks are his cousins.
What's the first half they get crushed, the second half they beat him.
He gives a big speech, they all fall asleep. Then they find Michael's secret stuff, which
Right.
Bugs has put a bunch of water into a bottle, taped
Right.
it up, and then is able to suplex a bunch of muscles.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So then they all come back and they're good.
Right. But it's just water. He tells them that.
And I had remembered as a kid that speech being a lot more
But it's like a total throwaway.
It's a
Right.
total throwaway.
You would
Which
get
again,
choked
I
up watching that as a
kind of
kid.
making
Yeah.
fun of the Hoosiers thing of like
Yeah.
you know it's within you all along, but it's not really like
But it's
that.
not- they
and
don't
they
even
make
go
fun of it
that
right
far.
away.
Yeah.
And Daffy's just like, yeah, but you got any more? Like like that's
Right.
like the joke.
But it's a weird sports movie where you don't have any sort of training montage and the game is almost kind of irrelevant until the
only
final quarter.
crucial moment is that Murray has to take the place of fucking someone else.
Everyone else. Wayne Knight's been crushed, turned to a balloon.
Right.
Every other
right.
Looney Tune
That's
has
a
died.
weird, visually odd.
Very creepy. Tweety's in an iron lung. Beaky Buzzard is wrapped up head to toe.
Sure.
We all know these characters. But that's when they set up the idea. Oh, how did you do that to Wayne Knight? It's cartoon land, baby. Anything can happen.
Right.
Which then becomes the Deus Ex Machina.
But none of this makes so. Yeah.
None
so
of it makes sense.
Jordan beats them. He does the cool thing with his arm.
He
That's
stretches
cool.
his arm.
Yeah. Well, the other
Let
weird
Griffin describe it in more
No,
detail.
no. What does
Stretch
James
for
gotta
well, the
say?
other weird thing is
More.
Murray comes out
Yeah.
out of nowhere.
Sure.
You're expecting like wow, he's gonna.
It'll turn out he's good.
He's gonna do something.
Right.
And he comes in, he sits down, says, "Let's just do a give and go." Gets the ball, chest pass back to Jordan. Done. That's it.
He does have the great one.
He's just a body.
There's no. I thought maybe he'd have a play. Some
right,
sort
he'd
of
have like a trick shot.
Like
it is great when he's running down his strategy that he doesn't know any of their names. And he goes, I give it to the duck.
Yeah.
He gives it to the bunny. He gives it to the girl bunny.
Right.
You take it to the hoop and you dominate.
Yeah, why isn't there an announcer character?
There is the two mice.
Oh, yeah. Well, they're not. They don't make any impact on me. I feel like a good sports movie, you want a nice announcer.
It should have been Foghorn. Foghorn could have made that thing sing.
Yeah,
I say we're tied.
I mean, sure.
You know, whatever it is. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
No, the mice, the bit is just that they have like, pipsqueak voices, and then they like clear their throats and sound like whoever.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to like stop the podcast, but I've been watching you do all these voices, and it's like amazing.
Right. It's almost like if you were a big time animation studio executive,
right?
Someone who produces, I don't know, primetime cartoon shows.
Sure.
And you've told other people in meetings that you listen to this podcast, maybe you'd start to like look through the pitch packets.
I mean, wow. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Right.
Well,
sorry.
no, I would say too that to what we were talking about at the beginning of the pod, that this was sort of a compromise movie for us. I think I also spent a lot of time when I was young hoping that at some point the dam would break and Griffin would be like, you know what's kind of cool? Sports.
Oh, right.
And
this would be the way to chisel away.
Right.
Yeah.
And
this movie was the closest I ever got.
This would happen, and I would get excited that I might have something. My brother might be like, but the problem is that we go see this.
And he's
and
just
it's good.
Looney
I mean, it's
Tunes.
fun. I loved it.
Yeah,
I loved seeing this with my brother, but exactly. It's never.
Right. There's too much Looney Tunes for you to actually have to. You don't have to go deep on the sports.
Right. But that was always the thing. It would be like, I mean, I remember that excitement you would have, and it would like work when it was like, oh, Shaq is in a movie.
Right.
Because I like Shaq. But then that wouldn't
you
translate
could never
to me
get
watching
to the
the
thing of
game.
like, let's just watch a game.
Right. Because it was always like, hey, Griff, have you seen Shaq's teammate too? Like, this, have you seen
this? He's never been a
have you
genie.
seen Kobe
He's never
Bryant?
lived in a boombox.
That's right. And that was the problem.
And this is the thing with me and my brother too, because I could get my brother into like, maybe you'd collect cards, like, all the periphery of sports. But if you're ever just like, let's just sit down and watch this game.
Right.
Yeah. No, he didn't care.
Because you were a big like baseball, basketball card guy, and then I was big into collecting cards, but I would collect cards that you couldn't trade with anyone.
Because no one cared about the cards
I
you
was
collected?
like, I got the full set of the small soldiers cards. And it's like, great, now you just have them all. You bought them. There was no economy for small soldiers cards.
I collected baseball cards, actually. That was my thing. I was a baseball card person.
Yeah,
basketball cards, for some reason, didn't hold as much
baseball
interest
cards are the... I mean, that's
the best.
And then that's the classic... Yeah.
And there's so many baseball players too, so you could really just
right.
keep
and
going.
my dad had old baseball cards. He
too.
used to like let us unwrap.
A lot of those to collect.
Yeah, you used to even do that. Maybe
baseball
I like the ritual of the unwrapping.
Cards.
I mean, there was that one. Remember that baseball card store we would go to a lot? That was on like McDougal.
Yes. It was like Pokemon 2 and some other
stuff.
But
this was even before Pokemon, when literally they only sold sports cards. It was like, I'll get a pack. Yeah. Because then I'll like the rush of the trade.
It's fun opening it,
when I was in my really deep shoplifting phase, I would steal basketball cards all the time.
Okay.
And me and my friend had this whole system where we would just get a whole box.
Right.
And I would distract the guy, and then I'd put it in my pants and walk out.
And then would you resell
them? Box?
Yeah. And he got a Paul Pierce rookie card one time.
A whole box in your pants?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I was a big kid.
You're also you're lucky, Ben, that you already had a reputation for having a famously square crotch.
Was it good?
Just went, the usual Ben Hosley bowl.
He would try to walk out and just be like, I don't know, and he never caught us.
God, if I always owned a fucking sports card store, any 10-year-old, 12-year-old walks in, I would just be like, my eyes are on this kid until they leave the store. Like, I would just assume they were all shoplifters.
Especially human Bart Simpson, Ben Hosley.
Especially fucking Edward Furlong over here. Well, I did like basketball cards, but I was a baseball card guy. But NBA Jam, that was, I played that all the time.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this, but that was like the big sort of Berlin Wall coming down in our family was like, we have separate bedrooms now, and we finally won the video game system war, and you got an N64.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
That was like a big turning
with
point.
And that was a big thing with all the stuff with like our mom.
So the Super Nintendo wasn't as big a deal for you. Right. This is the
it was, we weren't allowed.
Right.
Like the Genesis, the SNES, we'd go over to other people's houses and want to play
that's that's a problem as a parent because what ends up happening is your kids wind up picking their friends based on who has what system.
Oh, for sure.
Dodgy
That's not good at all.
No, it's true because those are usually the kids with the parents who are just like, yeah, just play video games for 10 hours. I'll order you pizza.
Yeah.
Right? And then you just like come out and you're like, and you're just like drinking Coke
I remember
and
my
eating
mom,
pizza all day.
My mom wouldn't let me go, and you as well, into the video game section at
Correct.
Blockbuster.
We weren't allowed to
We didn't
look,
even
or
have
Toys
a
R Us or
system.
any of
But we
that.
couldn't
Yeah.
look at the
Right.
It was like no caffeine, no video game. Like all these things were like just completely forbidden. That was like a big, it was like sort of a years long battle. I mean, famously, when our parents announced that they were going to have a third child, we thought like, oh, family meeting. This is going to be the video game system talk.
right.
We very much were like, we got it. N64, it's new on the market. We're getting that out of the PlayStation. That's the only thing we have to know is which system are we buying?
My parents had a love-hate relationship with video games, and they would take it away from me sometimes because I would smash the controllers.
Oh, you were too aggro.
I got aggro.
Well, speaking of that, again, we were very much parented together, and there would be like certainly peaks and valleys in that regard. And so like we were both
don't skip over it.
No, we're going to Valley.
Because Ron kind
Town.
of had different parents.
Yes.
It's like 10 years later. It's like,
right. But so for me and Griff, like, and being the younger sibling, you always want some level of approval and also just let's do this together.
Right.
Yeah.
And so like we wanted the system. We both wanted the system.
Right.
That was great. We got the system.
Yeah.
But then you get the system, and of course, we don't want to play any of the same games.
Right.
And
did you want to play like sports games?
yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I would play any game.
Mario games.
I would play those other games, but for the most part, if I had the time to myself, I really want to play sports games. But let me finish. So,
okay.
We had an incident where we were on a beanbag in. I don't know if we were in the same room then or if it was just my room.
That would have been your room.
That's
if
where
we had the system, it was your
That's
room.
where the Nintendo was. It was on like a little cart. It was like a TV on a cart. Maybe, I don't know. And
like an 8-inch screen.
Yeah, something like that.
Course.
Yeah, it was like half.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like a quarter the size of us at the time.
Yeah.
Right.
And Griff was playing on the beanbag, and I think I had. My recollection is I had come in and said, "Can I play soon?" And he said something like,
I'm very close to being this level of Blues Brothers 2000, the N64 game. A real pull.
Oh, I remember that game.
He says something like 20 minutes.
Sure.
20 minutes.
Yeah.
So I go, do whatever.
Trying to get to a save point.
Eat some French bread pizza or whatever we do. And then come back 20 minutes later. I'm like, it's time for me to, use the game system alone.
Yeah.
Right.
And Griffin, I don't know what he said, but it was a little like,
a little dismissive.
20 more minutes.
Probably asked for a
like
cool
that.
20 in a disrespectful tone.
And I punched him on the crown of his head.
This was
as
a big
hard as I
moment.
could.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
I punched him on the top of his head.
You'd had enough. Right.
I had enough. I didn't know that was not where you're supposed to punch someone if you're trying to hurt them. I guess
you punched him like right here.
Yeah, and I guess I just figured it was
top.
sort of like the epicenter of the brain and a human or something like that. But and so I punch him, and immediately I'm in tremendous pain. But I'm also in tremendous trouble,
Right.
Because I just punched my brother in the head,
Right.
Right.
And so,
But you were a big puncher. I mean, you almost became a professional boxer.
I was very,
This was in the period before you had
we
boxing
might disagree
as an
on this a
outlet.
little bit. My recollection of our fighting, because our fighting was, we didn't always get along, and our fighting was Griff
I would make fun of you
would
and you would
say,
punch me.
"You're stupid, you're this,
Right,
you're that,"
right,
and I would
You
go
would-
after
you would
him.
Right.
physically
I was only
attack,
verbal
right.
and you were only physical.
My recollection of my fighting style would always be like a tackle and a pin.
Yeah.
Right.
And then like getting ready to punch, and then I remember one time I pinned Griffin down and I was ready to punch him, and I just ended up slapping him in the ear. So I could never go.
That was a big one.
And that was a big
You
one.
kind of know.
I kind of couldn't go all the way, but then this was a time where
That was a
I
big
went all the way.
Yeah.
I'm watching Blues Brothers 2000 gameplay on my
A
computer
bad
right
one.
now.
Also a game that came out 2 years after the release of the movie.
I mean, like a famously bad game.
Yeah.
But it'll get you in the mood for
punching.
So,
Right.
and I'm writhing in pain because I just punched him in the
you
crown of
just
my head.
essentially
I didn't-
fractured your hand.
Right. Well, okay, so, and I'm in a lot of trouble.
Right.
And I'm going to my parents and I go, you don't know how much this hurts. And
Right.
James,
Right. Playing victim.
James,
Right.
what
This isn't
you
the
did to
moment
your brother
for-
was
right,
terrible. You
right,
could
right.
not do that. I think, you know what? I think we were sleeping in the same room.
Sure.
Because what happened is I think I was sentenced out of the
to
room.
a different room. right,
Parents'
yeah.
room. Little, like, sleeping bag
Right.
right next to the bed in my parents' room. Griff had the room to himself.
I think
that
we were
night.
separate rooms at that point. I would argue that we didn't
I'm
have the
positive I
systems until
slept on our
separate rooms.
parents' floor.
I believe that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I was on a blanket on my parents' floor, and I was just the whole night
Just like
with a shattered growth plate in my hand,
Completely broken. You had a cast for months.
just begging my parents
Like,
to
take
just,
me to
and
the
it's just,
hospital,
James,
right.
it's enough. You know,
Right.
you're
Yeah.
not. You're in trouble. You are not getting out of this.
Which
Right.
the broken hand was blamed on me, not
Right.
because I riled him up, but because my head was too hard.
Yeah, you
that was
got too
James's
thick a
company
skull.
line at the time. If your head wasn't so hard, I wouldn't have broken my hand.
Right.
we fundraised off that.
I was
You know?
hard-headed.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, you can be hard headed at
I
times.
can be hard-headed, certainly in this instance.
What a story!
You know
Right?
what? You know what?
What a story, Mark.
Yeah.
Do we have anything else we got to say about the movie?
I mean, they win
I'm
the
trying
game.
to think. I mean, there's kind of the triumphant moment at the end.
I think it's weird that they win the game and then only then are the Monstars like told like you can just beat the shit out of Danny DeVito if you want. Like
Sledgehammer
you
sucks.
just get rid of it.
Right.
And they're like, oh yeah.
Well, I think that's another thing is like this movie is not about anything.
No.
Right.
It's about
It's
Brandon.
about nothing.
It's
That's even that alone is the closest the movie comes to sending any sort of message
Right.
whatsoever.
But it's barely a message.
It's not, you know, it's just
It's about two things.
It's weird because-
let's make Looney Tunes cool for this generation.
Yeah.
And let's make Michael Jordan
make Jordan
as
nice.
shiny as
Right.
a person.
and I
as
would say
possible.
one of the
Yeah.
interesting things, the interesting experience I had rewatching this film after watching it probably 30 times from
Right, as
4
a child,
to
right.
9 or
the
whatever.
VHS that came with the coin. Do you remember the coin?
Yes,
Yeah.
I do. Was remembering the movie in a specific way, as you remember a lot of old movies you haven't seen in a while, as a collection of moments.
Right.
I remember this scene. I remember them doing this. I remember that. And you go back into a film like that, and you just sort of assume that there's
There's
stuff
connective tissue,
gluing the film
right,
together.
right.
There are B plots.
And this
C plots.
one
has no
it
other
was,
stuff.
I've remembered every second of this
Yeah,
film because
literally.
it is just a
Yeah.
collection of moments.
Yes. It's a series of commercials.
Yes. There's something but there's something about the thing where they're like, might makes right. Beat up Danny DeVito. And they do.
Right.
And then they're like, now it's time to give the talent back. And they're like, do we have to? And he's
Yeah.
like, yeah. They could just beat the shit out of him. They're
Right.
still monsters.
Yeah.
So he
Yes.
has to flip the message on them pretty much right away.
Not to harp on this, but the fact that Michael Jordan chooses to stake his life after he's already left his family without warning. I mean, there's the scene where Bugs and Daffy have to go back into the real world to retrieve his boxers.
Yes.
His North Carolina
Yes. That he
shorts.
wore under. Is that real or did they just make that up?
I think they made that.
They made that up,
I
right?
feel like that was real.
Well, can we say that might be the only admission in the entire film of gambling addiction?
Right.
Yes. Right.
He had to gamble his
He
life.
did.
To,
That's real.
To
Yeah.
get
It's
it
a
up.
real thing.
Yes, that
Yeah.
is big. But they have to go get the shorts, and then the kids have to reassure, or Bugs and Daffy have to reassure the kids that their dad is all right, and you're like, right, he just left.
Are they
his
not
family
worried about
for 2
them? Yeah,
days.
we don't see
Right.
Teresa Randall.
Well,
like,
that's another thing when the spaceship.
Yeah.
Also interesting that they used a cartoon spaceship in the minor league.
Yes.
Because I guess part of the reason that the film sort of makes sense is like when you go under, then you're a Looney Tune. You can stretch, you
Right.
can, you know what I mean?
Anything.
But
Right.
if you come back up, you're back on it. But so
Right.
they used a cartoon spaceship, landed on the baseball
Yeah.
field, and the wife
I believe I
just-
can fly.
just starts clapping
Standing
when he
O.
walks out of a spaceship.
Oh, cool. He made it in time for the game.
right.
Right.
There's
As
no
if-
like.
and they didn't
what-
even know he wasn't going to be at the
Right.
game.
Because you imagine the conversation the next morning where the kids go, look, Mom, we know you've been crying for 4 nights straight.
Right.
We want you to know everything's fine. Bugs and Daffy came to us at 3 o'clock in the morning and told us the dad's just helping them. Don't worry. He's risked his life betting himself into slavery.
They don't mention
Well,
that.
no,
part.
don't they imply that the kids keep it from her? There's a
Right.
moment where they
Right.
go, Mom, I don't, I don't know.
Yeah.
Um,
They also set up the thing that the kid is bad at sports, which feels like it's going to pay off later in the movie where he
Right.
gets off the minivan.
But there's just not enough time in this extremely roomy movie for any payoff
But the
there.
first 30 minutes are so many setups of all
That's
the
true.
different. Oh, the dog is scary.
Right,
the kid
right.
is sad. Right.
well, it feels completely like a movie that was directed by 2 different people.
Right. 3 different people. I mean, I think
Right.
Eric Goldberg did the animation. Joe Pick essentially did live action. Ivan Reitman was sort of overseeing everything. And the movie was pitched only as, hey, this is a smart way to revive the
Right.
Looney
This
Tunes.
is a good brand
You'll
exercise.
get Michael Jordan to want to do this, and he's one of the most famous people alive. It did feel like it was going to lead to him doing other movies, and it just never did. Didn't give a shit. I don't think
gets
he cared.
I don't think
obsessed
he
with basketball.
Yeah,
again.
I don't think he wanted to.
Yeah.
Can we talk about the possibility of them remaking this movie?
Well, so I mean, there was the
It's
official
now
announcement last week. Ryan Coogler is on board as a producer.
Right.
Terrence Nance, current showrunner of Random Acts of Flyness on HBO, is directing.
Yeah.
And LeBron is doing it. That's one of the reasons he moved to LA.
Yes.
Is to be able to film
announced
this in
it
the
almost
off-season.
immediately after moving to LA.
They're going to film it next summer.
Supposedly.
Yeah, so I don't know what the fuck that movie is, and I've always said this, where the weird thing about remaking Space Jam is then the only reason the Looney Tunes are in it is because they were in the original Space Jam.
Right.
Because kids today, I don't think, care about Looney Tunes.
Well, there's another point. As someone who was so excited for Space Jam because Michael Jordan was in it and other basketball players, I remember being a kid, and if there was a movie where an athlete appeared in the movie for 3 seconds, I was going to see it. Right. I mean, I watched The Sixth Man probably about 30 times. Yeah, 1,000 times.
Shaq being in Good Burger. You watch that scene over and over
Blue
again.
Chips when I was old enough to watch it.
Right. And Blue Chips, which is like a dark movie about like how the NCAA is bad.
A drunk Nick Nolte.
Yeah. Right. And then kids are watching it because they're like, Shaq's in this movie and he is in it. I mean, it's not like a huge...
No, but it's that... provides a good amount of sports porn.
Sure.
This movie provides a great amount of sports porn.
Right.
And that's just not... Like, when I was that age, I would do anything for that because I didn't have... you didn't have a computer.
Like an Uncle Drew.
You didn't have YouTube. I can go watch as much footage of LeBron James on the computer now as I want. I could die watching footage of LeBron James.
You've got 15 years to delve through.
Now, that entire appeal is basically lost for a sequel.
There were two basketball players and two athletes, period, who made movies in the 90s. And it was Shaq, who was an anomaly because of how big he was and also that he liked rapping and video games and all this other shit. Michael Jordan, who was the most famous athlete on the planet.
Sure.
But nowadays, like, I didn't know who Kyrie Irving was before Uncle Drew came out.
You didn't know about the commercial?
I was like, is this some comedian I don't know about? I didn't know about the commercial.
Sure.
I knew some of the older people because that was of the era where I would have to be in the room when you were
you
watching
might have heard
games.
of Reggie Miller or whatever,
I
Chris
even
Webber.
knew, Lisa Leslie's in it, right? Like, I knew those people.
Did you see Uncle Drew, James?
I did not, no.
Okay.
Kyrie Irving, I'd never heard of.
That's
and
crazy.
so it was such a novelty that it was like an athlete starring in a movie?
Right.
Whereas LeBron's already like done several different commercial campaigns, has been in Trainwreck, is in like Funny or Die videos, is like a funny guy.
Space Jam came out in an era where you and I would go to a cafe with really shitty food just so I could sit next to a replica pair of Shaq's shoes. Of his size 22 shoes. Right. I want to eat these fingers looking at his shoes. Yeah. I mean, it was just a totally different experience being a sports fan back then.
That's the weird thing about making a Space Jam 2 is it's a movie that exists only for people who are nostalgic for the movie when they were children.
No, I got two takes to against that. One, I think it is a movie for the WB to maybe finally make one last play to bring the Looney Tunes back into the culture.
Since Looney Tunes Back in Action, they have had some sort of Looney Tunes cartoon on the air, some series, and none of them have really worked.
Right.
They keep on trying and none of them really work.
Exactly. So maybe this is the Hail Mary. Maybe this will do it. But two, to any NBA fan, they're so much invested in LeBron versus Jordan now that it's almost essential that he makes Space Jam 2. Because everything he does is now in comparison to Jordan. So it's like, well, where's his Space Jam, though? He never made a Space Jam.
Yeah.
So now we need to see how he does Space Jam so that we can stack it up to Jordan's Space Jam.
But that's the weird thing, is that he literally has to do Space Jam rather than doing his version, his family comedy.
Absolutely not.
I mean, I'll say, I had a call with a Warner Brothers executive a year ago where it was like, they want to make shorts. Like, even before this movie was officially greenlit but was in active development, I think someone else was supposed to produce or direct it at the time.
It's definitely
Justin Lin was supposed to do it for a little while.
Yeah.
They were sending out the fucking beacon to comedy writers, being like, we need to write Looney Tunes theatrical shorts that have LeBron in them.
Right. There was also some concept for a Tiger Woods starring Space Jam when Tiger Woods was at the height of his fame.
Okay, so the legacy of this movie comes out, does well domestically, but makes $1 billion in merchandising, and the soundtrack is big and all of that. They immediately go, what's the next one? And for years, they kept on going is it Race Jam? They wrote a pitch that was him and Jeff Gordon. There was the Tiger Woods version. Right. There was Spy Jam, which was Jackie Chan as a spy with the Looney Tunes.
Sure.
The premise just became, take someone who's good at something else, pair them up with the Looney Tunes live action
Weird
animation.
that jam's the word, though, because jam refers to slam dunking. Right, yeah.
But that was always their thing. Spy Jam got announced at some point.
Go on.
Well, the Tiger Woods thing would have made a lot of sense.
Yeah,
after
he was similarly branded.
Or after he crashed his car.
Oh, sure.
After sleeping with every Denny's waitress.
You could do a similar first act.
Right.
Looney Tunes Back in Action, a movie I love that we will hopefully cover someday on the show.
We will.
Which was their attempt to do like, okay, this is like a proper live action Looney Tunes movie. Has all the elements of the aborted versions in them. So, like, Brendan Fraser's father in the film is Timothy Dalton playing James Bond so they could use all the spy stuff they had developed.
Interesting. So they were just like pulling from
Jeff
this
Gordon
and that.
races the Looney Tunes in it for no fucking reason.
That sounds lame. Is this movie good?
Like, I was saying to Ben, like, half of it rules and half of it is like, we spent money on this. We have to put it in there somehow. And then that movie bombed so hard that they're just like, fuck it, let's try Looney Tunes Babies. Let's try a show where they live in an apartment together. Like, this has been the last 15 years.
It's kind of the
Looney
same
Tunes.
problem the Muppets have, right? Where they're like, well, we still got this brand.
Yeah.
Surely there's a way to make it stick. And they're just kind of throwing shit out there.
Well, in one sense, it makes sense because you already have this platform that people will be excited to see. Space Jam 2. People love Space Jam 1. They'll go see it. So if you sort of get them back into the Looney Tunes for that. The other thing is Space Jam 1 was a horrible platform for the Looney Tunes.
Terrible.
Right.
Terrible.
This is true.
Yes. It didn't help them as characters. It helped them as iconography for a couple years and then
it helped them for merch.
Right. But I think like it's the same thing with the Muppets and the Looney Tunes that people don't realize how much it was about those creative teams. That it wasn't just these characters and the designs of them, but it was like Chuck Jones and Michael Maltese, and it was Jim Henson and his writers, you know, like Jerry Jones and all these people.
Yeah.
And they've never reestablished a creative sort of brain trust behind these properties.
But now I think there's enough nostalgia. I mean, LeBron James has always talked about how much he loves Space Jam. He's certainly obsessed with Michael Jordan. He wears number 23.
But once again, his connection to the characters.
Do you think it's weird that he wears?
No,
number 23?
I mean he is in a way obsessed with Michael Jordan, but I also think he's been very careful at times, which is a little bit why I'm surprised he wants to do this so bad.
He didn't broach the legacy stuff until recently.
Right.
Yeah. He's been very careful about when to sort of start
and is also very
it.
clearly as an athlete very different from Michael Jordan. I mean,
as a basketball player, totally different.
Right.
Yes. But in terms of all-encompassing talent.
Like if I was fucking LeBron James's acting manager, I'd be like, let's get a pitch for a movie with you and SpongeBob. Like I wouldn't be make Spice Jam 2.
Spice Jam.
I'd be like, I say.
I think a Spice Jam could be good.
Spice Jam
LeBron,
would be great.
Yeah.
Opens a food truck.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
It's
like
a chef tie-in.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Chef
Favreau
Casper
could direct it.
Yeah. Favreau would come back for that.
Yeah. He's not busy.
But like, doesn't it make more sense if you go like, oh, the premise is it's LeBron with the Transformers or the Ninja Turtles or someone who's like still popular
I think there's just something about being in the same universe as Michael Jordan that gets everything a little more exciting.
And look, Coogler fucking rules. Terrence Nance is really cool. Maybe they'll do something weirder with the sequel, but it's a bizarre thing.
Well, yeah, the movie could be really good.
Right.
You know, in part because it doesn't resemble at all Space Jam 1.
And there's nothing to be beholden to. There's no integrity.
No one's going to be like, you better have a scene where this happens because that's legendary. Yeah.
If Patrick Ewing fucks in this film, I'm not seeing it.
They changed the voice actors for the Nerdlucks. Like Ewing is boning. He's taking women to Bone Town.
No one will say the word Nerdluck.
Oh, God, I will protest.
Yeah, you will protest. You'll be it. Well, now I guess we have to cover. We all have to come back together to cover Space Jam 2 if it happens.
Yeah,
assuming it does.
We will.
Right?
I think they've staked out a release date.
They have.
Yeah, and they are planning to shoot it next summer. They know they have a limited window of his availability.
You got to do it in the summer.
Coogler, I think, guarantees that the movie gets made now. He was sort of the missing element.
I mean, he's got a blank check, literally.
And they've been paving the runway. As I said, this call about the fucking Looney Tunes shorts was 1.5 years, 2 years ago. Like, I don't know if they're still doing that, but their thing was like, we're going to start putting LeBron with the Looney Tunes to get people used to the idea.
And Coogler already did exactly what you would need to do to make this movie good, which is find the emotional through line in the Rocky movies, but turn it into your own movie.
Right. And hire like a really visually interesting director.
Do you think Jordan's in it?
I
cameo?
I think they got it.
It's a bit of a bummer to see Michael Jordan these days, right? Do you agree?
With his Hitler mustache?
Well, that was bad enough.
Well, part of that is also Michael Jordan, in addition to being one of the most beautiful men of all time, is one of the worst dressed men of all time.
He's horrible, and he's only gotten worse.
Yes.
But so every time you see Michael Jordan, he looks like an alcoholic dad.
But that's the other thing is like his eyes are always bloodshot now, right? Like he always looks bleary-eyed.
He looks, yeah. You know, he's a little fuller.
He had a messy divorce. He's carrying some water weight on him.
His basketball team is terrible.
He's a very bad owner.
Horrible.
And he's like the exact kind of owner you don't want, where he's like, the team has staked out this, like, we're going to draft this guy. We've done all our, and he like barges in and he's like, no, we're drafting this guy because, you know, he'd back me down if we were playing. And they're like,
well, he drafts a ton of North Carolina players.
Drafts a lot of North Carolina players.
Drafts a lot of players who are in the NCAA tournament and go deep into the NCAA tournament, which lets you know, 2 weeks before the end of the tournament,
he's flipping around. He's like, Kaminsky.
He's flipping.
You know, the Celtics famously offered him 4 draft picks for the 9th pick.
So famous.
And he turns them down, which is insane.
Brutal.
To draft Frank Kaminsky, who is fine, who is a 9th guy.
Who is the most that guy. He's a guy.
I would say he's that guy if I had to say.
Oh, boy. I like the Hornets because I like the colors. They're a bit of an underdog team. Like they were good when I was a kid. Like I've always liked the Hornets.
To steal a line from the movie, they are the least virile team. They're not the worst team in the NBA, but there's no sex appeal to that team whatsoever.
No.
Agreed. So merchandise spotlight. I got drunk and bought 27 Space Jam mugs off of eBay 5 years ago.
Why?
Because we used to own so much Space Jam merchandise that I went on eBay and was trying to remember what we used to own when I was drunk after I had done this bit successfully for the first time.
Right.
And someone was selling a lot of 26 mugs that were just a ceramic bust of Michael Jordan's head that didn't look like Michael Jordan at all.
So they're identical.
You would drink out of his skull.
Sure.
And I just thought the image was so funny of this eBay picture of a dude's garage where he had a perfect cube of just stacked mugs.
Right.
Why did he buy this many? Why has he been sitting on them for this long?
Maybe he stole it like Ben did. He put it in his pants. He had a cube crotch.
I put in a low ball offer. 5 comedy points.
Thank you.
Was
your offer 5 comedy points? I'll give you 5 whole comedy points.
At this point, I'm not making much money, right? I'm not successful in any way.
Humble brag.
Thank you. And I think the guy was asking for like $200.
Sure.
And I was like,
it's a lot of money.
I'm going to lowball $100, which was not $100 I had.
No.
And he accepted it within 1 second.
He was like, what?
Right.
Someone said yes to that?
It's been sitting on these for 20 years. So then this very angry UPS guy shows up at my doorstep with the heaviest box of all time. It's 27 ceramic mugs.
And he's like, this is something good, right? And you open it and it's 27 ceramic mugs.
Yes. He kills himself. That I didn't know what to do with. So for like 2 years, that was the only present I gave to people.
Right.
And it was sort of like the people closest in my life, birthday, graduation,
Did you get one of these
engagement.
fucking things?
I think I got one.
I never gave anyone more than one.
Right.
Yeah.
It was the deal was everyone gets one.
Right.
And I have one left. And it's how I will propose to my wife.
Great merchandise
but it was
spotlight.
Like Sophie and Hawking got engaged. That was my gift to them at their wedding. They were like, we finally got them. And they lived with me when I had these things delivered. Like that was my big gift for a while.
Griffin is, I don't think I've told this on mic. I can't remember if
a monster?
Like a while ago, I had a friend who was dating someone who was a mutual friend of Griffin's, but I didn't know Griffin yet.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And one day I was like, you want to hang out? And she's like, no, I have to go to like Applebee's in Harlem because like my boyfriend's friend decided to like have his birthday there. And I was like, oh, why? And she was like, I don't know. I guess he likes Applebee's.
He thinks it's funny.
Or he just thinks it's funny.
In February, by the way, it's freezing cold.
Right. I may have told this story in the podcast. I can't remember. And I was just like, oh, okay, whatever. Let's hang out tomorrow. And so we hang out the next day. I was like, how was that Applebee's thing? She was like, it was horrible. We had to like wait an hour
They wouldn't let you reserve
Applebee's.
tables. So we waited an hour and a half outdoors in the cold. It was literally snowing. And then I ordered a quesadilla burger. And I couldn't finish it. It's a burger where the buns are quesadillas.
And so before I knew Griffin, I knew this story. Yeah. She never said his name.
Yeah.
I knew this story of like this idiot who did this.
And the second you met me, you were like, fuck, I was like, wait, this is the guy.
Is this you?
This must be you.
You did this? Yeah. And you were like, yeah, I did that.
Yeah, of course I did this. This was a really life bit heavy period of my life.
Well, that was also when we were young, in addition to maybe we see a movie after, like part of the deal of being able to go to like ESPN Zone or All-Star Sports Cafe is basically Griffin being like, I'll go if the food is fucking terrible.
Right.
If they have the most frozen,
I love that.
Chicken nugget, burger, mozzarella stick.
No effort.
Right. Yeah. My diet is based around the fact that I didn't like food growing up.
Right.
So I only wanted to go to restaurants that had toys.
Sure.
And thus my food taste became based around what's the most chemically tasting insane mutant food possible. Is this episode 17 hours long?
No, we're doing fine.
What's the runtime?
We're doing fine. We're about 2 hours, right?
Yeah.
We were recording for a while because there was that like long digression about your jean jacket.
David?
Yeah.
If I know one thing about you, let's say you're a connoisseur of context. If I know two things about you, is you love money.
I do love money.
It sounds like a bit, but you talk about it a lot.
I mean, yes. Money's on my mind.
Right. And we got a lot of sponsors on this show, and they sell products, and you're like, products are good, but they cost me money. I want to make money.
Right.
Right?
This is, you're talking about our friends Robinhood.
Our good friends, maybe our best friends, Robinhood.
That's an investing app that lets you buy and sell stocks or cryptocurrencies, options, ETFs, all commission free.
What they're striving to do is to make financial services work for everyone, not just the wealthy.
It is actually, it's an app on your phone. It's so easy. You know, you set it up and like it's all very like clear, and you can buy and sell stocks and such.
It's just, I mean, look, it's simple and intuitive. It's a non-intimidating way for stock market newcomers to invest for the first time with true confidence.
It's got little charts. You know, for like a stock going up and down. I don't know if you know this, but the stocks, they go up and down.
And look, I'm scared of money. I'm the opposite of you. It terrifies me.
Right.
I treat money like a ghoul or a goblin. Mm-hmm. I run away shivering. Okay. Because I feel like I don't know it. I don't know how to deal with it. But
this is very easy to use.
You learn by doing, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, and like a lot of brokerages, they charge you like $10 for every trade. Robinhood doesn't charge commission fees. You trade stocks, you keep all of your profits.
Once again, you're not trying to spend money. You're trying to make money.
The web platform and the app, really easy to use. The charts are simple. You can place a trade with just like 4 taps on the phone.
You get notifications, so you don't miss a good moment to invest.
They'll give you like a personalized news feed. They've got custom notifications for stuff you might be interested in.
Love notifications.
I've been using it. I'm having a little fun. But I'm also, you know, if you join, you can get a free stock like Apple, Ford, or Sprint to help build your portfolio. If you sign up at check.robinhood.com, that's check.robinhood.com,
you check to make
they'll
sure.
give listeners a free stock.
So essentially, they're just giving you free money. This deal is, a lot of times it's a deal where it's like, hey, here's 10% off of a thing. Robinhood's just going like, here's a stock.
Yeah, to get you started.
Free money.
Yeah. So yeah, Robinhood, check.robinhood.com. And you can get trading right away.
Yeah, this episode's sponsored by money. Okay, let's play a box office game.
Yes.
This movie ends up at like 90 domestic.
90 domestic, exactly.
It's just like big, but not
230
humongous.
worldwide.
Crazy
great
for a movie about basketball.
But at this point in the 90s, right, like, you know, basketball is becoming a little more of a global brand. Michael Jordan, big name. Bugs Bunny.
Big name.
Big
Above
name.
the title.
Number 1. So this is November 15th, 1996.
Okay.
Number 1 of the box office is Space Jam, opens to 27.
It's like a year to the date after Toy Story.
Horrible multiplier.
Yeah, right. Huge opening.
Especially for a children's movie.
Yeah, huge opening.
Number 2, we discussed it before. It's got a great score. It's a revenge thriller.
Payback?
Nope. Close.
Oh, Ransom?
Ransom.
Right. Which
the other Mel Gibson one-word revenge movie.
I listened to the Ransom score and I want to feel like a hero.
Have you seen Ransom, James?
No. I've never seen it either. I just love that track.
Ron Howard. Pretty good.
Main theme from Ransom.
Number 3.
Mm-hmm.
New this week. It's like sort of a romantic dramedy, romantic comedy, I guess, with like a huge star who rarely makes movies.
At that time,
and she directed.
Mirror Has Two Faces.
Yeah. It's hard. How do you explain?
I was going to get it
has,
before you said she directed it. Just that she rarely makes it.
It's Babs.
That was like her last
Pretty
film
much.
she directed, right?
I think so.
And then she has The Guilt Trip and The Fockers, and those are her only other movies after that.
I guess so.
Yeah.
Is there nothing? I guess.
No, I think it's The Guilt Trip and The Two Fockers.
Babs. Number 4, a great movie. Oh my God, I love this movie. We were just talking about this director. Heist movie.
It's a heist movie with
such a good movie.
Director you love.
No, don't love the director.
Oh.
Kind of mixed on the director, but we were just talking about him. But I love this movie. This is my favorite of his movies.
Were we talking about it in relation to a 6 out of 10 time at the El Royale?
No.
And maybe it's 7 out of 10.
Yeah, 6 to 7.
Yeah. No, it's a heist movie.
Sort of two really good sequences at the El Royale. That's what I would call that movie.
But like a pretty decent,
2 awesome set pieces
sense
at the El Royale.
Place and vibe
right.
throughout the entire runtime at the El Royale.
Right.
A good actor showcase at the El Royale.
Mostly. Yeah.
Cynthia Erivo is going to have a really good career at the El Royale.
I think so.
Okay, so this is a heist movie. It's 1996. You really like it. What's the cast like? Big actor?
It's an ensemble piece, like many a heist movie, for ladies.
Oh, it's Set It Off.
Set It Off.
Right, which you love.
Gary, great,
Yes,
great movie.
yes,
Queen Latifah, Jada Pinkett Smith, Vivica A. Fox, Kimberly Elise. Great movie. Number 5. Oh, another great movie that I really want to do on this podcast.
Scooby-Doo 2, Monsters Unleashed?
No, you can go right to hell.
Well, okay.
The second film by this very blank check director who's only made like 5 movies.
Interesting.
Saw this in theaters, was huge for me. I've seen it so many times. It's my favorite of his movies. Wow, it's a good weekend.
Only made 5 movies. Are they an actor as well?
It's an adaptation.
The director, are they an actor as well? No,
it's an adaptation. Huge star,
massive star.
but sort of at the beginning of his success. Like
not Jim Carrey.
No,
96, beginning of his
It's
success.
got a real like visual vibe to it.
mm-hmm.
Huh.
Yeah, visuals really pop.
Hyper-visual movie from a director who's real blank check. He's only made about 5 films. Massive star, but kind of at the beginning of their career.
This is all good clues.
Will Smith picture?
Nope. Good guesses.
Right?
Yeah.
Male star?
Yeah.
Really big.
Female co-star who's not as big, although at the time she was hot. She's still big. The time she was brand new, like ingenue, like well-regarded teen star.
A teen star?
Yeah.
And how old is the lead actor?
He's a teen. Probably. He's
teen.
maybe in 21 at this point.
And then he goes on to have a really big. It's still
Huge
big
career.
today.
Yes.
Still bankable.
Yeah, very much so.
Very much so. Huh.
One of the few movie stars.
One of the few movies.
Oh my god!
I like it.
I'm genuinely perplexed.
I know. I love a stumper.
And had either of them come from TV before?
She did. She's a TV star.
She was a TV star.
I guess he was in TV. Yeah, but like, I mean, he gets famous in the movies. I'll give you another clue. He's already an Oscar nominee.
Oh, so he had an early Oscar. What is it? DiCaprio?
Leonardo DiCaprio.
Okay, right. So he was a regular on Growing Pains for a season.
Yeah. But I mean,
Oh! It's William Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet.
Right.
Good
Baz
call.
Luhrmann.
Good call. Yeah.
Yep. With Claire Danes of My So-Called Life.
Rewatched that movie not
I
too
watch
long
it all
ago.
the time.
It's aged
a
so well.
Yeah,
It's
it's a really good
amazing.
movie.
It's so good.
Such a good movie.
It's kind of vaporwave.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%. That 90s Venice Beach sort of like, Radiohead soundtrack. Yep.
Yeah.
So good. What else you got in there? Sleepers. Weird movie.
Yeah.
Epic about child molestation. First
Played
Wives
like
Club.
a blockbuster.
Seriously. First Wives Club.
Yeah.
Ghost in the Darkness.
Oh,
Hunters.
with Kilmer and Douglas? Yeah. Okay.
Michael Collins, Irish Independence.
Yeah. When Liam Neeson was boring.
Independence Day. Big
Still
hit.
playing.
Yep.
Right. Okay.
Yep.
Crazy. What a time. What a time. What a place.
We love it.
Well,
The movies. We love them.
The movies.
The movies. That's a callback to something.
Yeah, you'll like that
with
8 weeks
Yeah,
from now.
exactly.
Yeah.
I got to find that clip.
so pump up the jams. Pump it up.
Oh, we got to give credit to
While your feet are stomping.
our Blanky who remakes the
jam
theme
is
song for
pumping.
us.
Yeah. Their name is
Go on.
Masked Manta.
Hey, thank you so much for that. That was really, really cool.
And we got to record that.
Well, don't say that on mic.
I was going to forget otherwise.
Okay, we'll beep it out then. So it's a mystery, and it sounds more exciting than it actually was.
Fair enough.
Any final thoughts, James?
He's pondering.
I mean,
Anything we didn't get to?
This feels like the beginning of movies being designed as like, this can't not work, right?
It's all, and just that idea of like movies as intellectual property,
As
like,
product, as brand revival, as sort of like stuffing as much in as you can.
Yeah, but also, but again, such a lack of, like, I feel like it's very hard to make a movie like this now without either the director or the writer coming in and saying like, but let's throw a little of this in there. Let's get this, like, so let's make this the message. This is again, as you said, purely a commercial.
It's a product.
It's a commercial.
Right.
And I think now they try and trick you by like hiring, more legitimate artists.
But
But there's also people leaning on them being like, don't forget to include all this stuff.
But I wonder, did we like this movie more when we were young for that exact reason. Like,
just
again,
that it was just bite-sized, little high energy cartoon.
Watching this movie now, again, my recollection being so much different, but my recollection was just loving this movie.
Like no boring parts if you're 6.
And forgetting parts that didn't actually exist.
Yeah, when you watch this movie now, you're like, right, this is barely a movie.
I mean, I remember walking out with our mom. We were both like over the moon about it. Right. We were like, what do you think? And she was like, it's just like a commercial.
Right.
Like, that was her criticism as an adult.
I'm not saying there's anything wrong with a great Pixar movie or something like that. But do too many directors want kids to be like adults in that they are...
Sure.
You know, that they're going to the movies and they want to...
But on the other hand, this is a movie, and I'm all for like movies that are just like Hotel Transylvania, movies where it's just like, this is just fun. This is just fun for kids, right? Like not trying to even begin to emulate the pathos of a Pixar or whatever. But this is a movie where no one involved had like genuine, like sort of emotional, creative aspirations.
Right.
You know? And like, I feel like even other movies that are like you look at like Roger Corman movies or whatever, where he's like churn them out, but the director is like Coppola and he's trying something. Right. This movie is everyone just being like, we know exactly what we're doing, like sell the fucking hamburgers, you know?
Yeah.
Sell the Band-Aids, sell it all.
Right.
It's a weird film in that way, and it kind of opens the door to, I think, studios being like, oh, do we have
to make any effort?
Right. What if we just don't give a shit?
What's it like? I'm trying to think of an analog, though. Like, there's nothing quite like Space Jam.
No. I mean, the movie I weirdly think is closest to Space Jam is From Justin to Kelly.
Yeah, right. But no one even gives a shit about that one.
Right.
Yeah.
The weird thing it has going for it is the mashup quality, which also was very unusual at the time. Not the live action animation, but the idea of like brands were kept very pure at the time. Like they wouldn't even make Freddy versus Jason, and the fact that it's like two different things together felt
Freddy
insane.
versus Jason is like an Alien versus Predator.
Right. Those things were always like,
where it was like people
never
just demand a clash of brands.
Right. And they do comic books or video games, they'll be like, they'll never make a movie. That's too messy for a movie.
Okay, what's your mashups?
Oh, okay. Want to end with this? Our dream mashups?
Oh, please. You go first.
Yeah. Okay.
Because I have to think of something.
Yeah. Well,
you know what I loved was X-Men versus Capcom, that brand of video games that became Marvel versus Capcom. That was huge for me.
Sure. I mean, I think I pitched this before in the podcast, but Knights of Rodanthe, Knight of Rodanthe.
Okay.
It's a bunch of older men who have to team up to save Diane Lane. We got Hugh Grant, Dickie Gear, John Cusack. All the men who have romanced Diane Lane post-40 are the Knights of Rodanthe.
Yeah.
That's my mashup.
I'm not going to top that.
Dogs Hogs, which of course is the big mashing of the Walt Becker universe.
Oh, that's not about Hogs and David Dogs?
Well, that's the sequel.
Okay.
So that's Dogs, Hogs, Hogs, Dogs. But Dogs, Hogs is, of course, the Wild Hogs boys end up pulling up into the driveway of the old Dogs boys. And boys will be boys and dogs will be dogs, and you can't teach an old hog new tricks. So that's Dogs, Hogs.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. Those are my mashups. Ben, you got any?
Yeah. Beverly Hillbillies.
Okay.
Meets the Jetsons.
It's weird that he started with Beverly Hillbillies. I'm like, oh, he's got a joke coming, and then he's just like, Okay, I got one. I got one right here. Ben, I got one for you. Beverly Hill Cop Billies. Family of Eddie Murphys, the Clumps, all get rich suddenly, move to Beverly Hills, and all become cops under the tutelage of Axel Foley. They don't know how the fancy appliances work.
Hotel for dogs, but it's a cruise.
Cruise for dogs.
Cruise for dogs.
Hotel for dog dogs. The Wild Hogs and the Old Dogs build a hotel for dogs.
It's the 311 cruise.
Oh no.
Hotel for Haas Hogs.
James.
Hotel for David Dogs.
Just kill it. Let's talk about basketball.
Dogs off the leash. Part.
Can we finish with basketball?
Yeah, let's talk some basketball. You're a Knicks fan still. Do you care?
I thought the mashup
I know you're a
thing
college
went
fan.
okay.
I do care. I mean, I do find college to just be a more fulfilling.
I was trying to think
of
but
I struggle with it because they're just going to.
I didn't come up with anything though.
A stereo thing.
Yeah, no. By all means, keep talking.
No, go on.
Well, so what is
anyway,
your...
I'm getting a tattoo pretty soon.
What is
you
your
all for
favorite
listening.
basketball-based movie you've ever seen?
It's going to
Please
be
remember to rate, review, subscribe.
Hoosiers.
Hoosiers?
Garbage
Yeah.
Fire.
to Andrew Gudo
Yeah,
for
it's
social
Hoosiers.
media.
I'm trying to think. Like, so what else is there? There's Blue Chips.
Lee Montgomery.
I mean, they're the kids' movies. What's I feel like there's an obvious one I'm missing.
Into the garbage.
Well, I mean, they're
Bowen,
the
Pat
kids, but
Reynolds
they're
for
like
artwork.
Mike.
Yeah, like
getting
Mike.
it on
There's
my
that horrible
thigh,
Kevin Durant.
which I think will be.
I've
Talent
never
swap
Thunderstruck.
film.
I've never seen that one.
Go to TeePublic. I'm sure our Wild Haws Haws
This is the number
mugs
one.
are available now.
There's Mr. Right with Common.
Oh yeah, that one is.
I believe that film's called Just Right.
Oh, White Man Can't
Just
Jump. Just Right, yes, sir.
White Man Can't Jump, yeah.
That's up there.
Go to
Fast Break.
blankets.reddit.com for some real nerdy
Fast
shit.
Break is good.
Yeah.
And as always, I cannot believe I allowed us to talk about a
Love and
basketball movie.
Basketball is a great movie.
Love and Basketball is very good.
It's not like the best basketball movie, but it's a terrific movie, and I think it is about like
next week.
sports.
Yes.
Like,
We're
about
gonna
like
do
that's how it's in your
Stars
blood.
whole episode about the new Bradley Cooper film, A Star Is Born.
We're
So
starting and
check
ending
out
our
that.
Bradley Cooper miniseries.
Right.
Yeah.
Unless he decides to make another movie, of course. Then we resume.
Well, yeah, but they'll be catching in later.
But no, yeah, it's Hoosiers.
And
Hoosiers
I
is the
got a
best
text
basketball
from
movie.
Romley saying, "How was James?" So clearly the competition rages on.
Wow.
He already did the as always. So
Yeah,
we can
you guys
just
are
end.
in extra time now.
Overtime.
No, I knew what I was saying. It was a different reference that you didn't get.
Griffin, is Michael Jordan your favorite basketball player?
No, Shaq.
Shaq.
Oh, it is Shaq. Shaq is the most like merchandisable, right? He is the most living merch.
he did
Well,
other
did you
stuff.
did you see that Real Sports segment about Shaq's merch empire?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, I did. I was just. Did you watch like the beef history recently about him versus Tim Duncan?
No.
I mean, sorry, David Robinson.
How long do you think they're going to
Where
do
he
this, Ben?
literally made something up in his
Literally ended the
autobiography,
episode minutes
where he
ago.
was like, when I was a kid, I asked him because he grew up in San Antonio.
Right.
And
I
he's
asked him
taking
for an
off his
autograph, and he blew me
headphones.
off.
Right.
And everyone was like, "That doesn't sound like David Robinson.
David
He was
and I
a
aren't gonna
nice
be
guy."
friends
Shaq
anymore
is
now that
ex-
he's
And then
discovered
later he was like,
James.
"Yeah, I made that up."
Shaq
he
is
has a
excused
Newman
for
he can
acting
talk
like a
sports
petulant
with,
child because he
and
acts
why-
also like a really happy
value
child,
do I
right?
have
I mean, it's sort
anymore?
of
I don't know.
Anyway, it was so. Certainly, we can discuss the long-standing rumor that Stern banned him because of gambling and
Yes.
all that stuff. But like, right, you don't want to say like the mafia killed Mr. Jordan. You don't want to just throw that out there.
All right. Are you guys feeling good?
I'm trying to find this one.
Are you ready to fucking pump up the jam?
Come on and slam.
Come on and slam. And welcome to the jam.
Jam. No one said anything about my jacket.
Great jacket.
It's a 90s jacket.
It is. It's a great jacket. I like the red too, though. I like your
Ben's already
colors.
deep on fashion.
Nothing?
I just said I liked it.
Well, I need, the colors, yeah.
Yeah, I said that too.
All right, good.
It's a good jacket. Where'd you get it?
I bought it upstate.
It looks heavy. Not like in a like.
Pretty.
I like the jacket.
sturdy.
I actually don't know if I would go with such a bright red under that jacket. I'll just say I don't know if it's a bad way to start.
Whoa!
Just
Why?
You could just
I
cut
just like-
the tension in this room with a fucking.
it just
knife.
I don't know. I really like the jacket, but it's sort of a
You're recording
a
this,
nice
right,
duller color, and
You have to
The
put
red
it
shirt
in
is
the
just
other-
exploding
the red
out of
sets
the-
off the blue, and it works with the black pants and the white
it's just
shoes. Trust me.
it's just a
You
perspective.
can't do earth tones. I don't like purples.
perps.
You know what, James?
I like a perp.
Starting off on the wrong.
I like
wow.
a purple.
Sorry, you
Things
guys
are getting tense in here.
Michael Jordan, the first billionaire in NBA history, player history, obviously.
He's the third richest African American alive.
Wow.
It's Oprah. It's a VC guy whose name I didn't recognize, and then it's Michael Jordan.
He owns the Charlotte Hornets. You know, there are now.
You know what you should do? You should do the line where Daffy says,
12
a
black
guy can't
billionaires.
even get wet around here.
Yeah, that one is fucked.
Why?
Robert Smith. That's the richest African American.
That-
There we go.
Yeah.
No, but he and Oprah have
He's
been
the
switching
philanthropist.
positions.
No,
Yeah.
he's got like $1 billion on Oprah
right now. Wow.
Oh yeah.
geez.
Yeah, well, he owns an NBA team.
No,
that
I'm
value-
talking Robert Smith. Yeah.
Oh,
Jordan's
Robert Smith.
third. He does own an NBA team.
But I actually, what do they say he's worth on there?
$1.14 billion.
I think he's got to be worth more than that because
The
he could
shoes.
sell the team alone for more
for
than
about
that.
$1 billion.
Yeah,
He might not own it outright.
no, he
though.
doesn't. But
Right. But
but
yeah.
also
no.
the brand and everything. I mean, that's just
The brand is. I feel like that's a lot of it.
What team was the center on?
Patrick Ewing.
No, he was on the Mavericks.
You mean Sean Bradley?
Yeah.
Ugh, it's so fucking offensive that he's in this movie.
he sucked.
I got
So
context. I got
hate it.
context.
It makes me so mad.
The
That Sean
context is
Bradley's in
really
this
good,
movie.
and you guys are going to like it.
They
Okay.
have 4 Hall of Famers, and then Sean. I mean, I don't know if Muggsy is a Hall of Famer.
I'm
Well,
gonna-
I have thouts on that. Too.
yeah.
I'm going to do this, and it's going to be really embarrassing.
But
we're just
Muggsy
gonna
Bogues
go
is
into
like-
it, and we've been
he's like
recording
a
all of this, and
Looney
it's going to
Tune.
go at the end of the episode.
You could also
right?
make the argument that Muggsy Bogues is
Okay.
like one of the greatest athletes ever
He's
to live.
special. He's
Right,
a very
I mean,
special person.
yeah.
Right.
If we're gonna talk about basketball. Let's at least do it on mic.
All right. We're going to talk about basketball. Believe me.
Okay, ready?